In the middle of a hot summer, our protagonist never thought his life was about to take such a wild turn. He definitely didn't expect to meet a man who would change everything. He was 18, just living his life, when fate decided to throw him a massive curveball. It was a quiet night in the suburbs, the kind where nothing ever happens. But as lights flickered in a nearby house, a destined encounter was already in motion. Mian found himself standing face-to-face with a literal Greek god, who looked like he just stepped out of a high-end spa. Seeing this absolute unit in nothing but a towel, Mian felt his soul leave his body as he fell in love at first sight. To understand how we got here, we have to rewind the clock a few hours. Our main lead is Mian, and ever since a childhood accident, he's been living with a literal superpower. The doctors called it synesthesia. But for Mian, it's basically like having a cheat code for life, because he can see people's raw emotions. Right now, he's dealing with his friend Sunrui, who is currently going through it because her latest crush had a technical difficulty in the bedroom. Mian sees her mood value as a 65, and it's all color-coded for him. Black is for the terrified, red is for the salty, blue is for the depressed, and yellow. Well, yellow means someone is down bad and feeling lusty. Brad. Sunri is crying a river, complaining that she can't find a decent guy anywhere. Internally, Mian rolled his eyes, thinking maybe stop picking guys based on their gym selfies then. Desperate, Sunrui asks Mian to just be her boyfriend instead. Mian shuts that down immediately, pulling the ultimate self-burn by claiming he's not exactly gifted in the downstairs department either. Sunrui starts praying to the heavens for a break while Mian just chills, unbothered. He's honestly just enjoying the drama from the sidelines. Suddenly, a fancy SUV rumbles into the driveway next door. Then a massive, handsome guy steps out carrying a little girl and some groceries, radiating peak DLF energy. Sunrui is suddenly cured of her depression, her mood value spiking to a lusty 80 as she simps for the new neighbor. She sighs that a 10 is way out of her league, and she can only admire from afar. Mian tries to tell her she's exaggerating, but then the neighbor looks over. Mian's heart starts doing backflips in his chest. As their eyes lock, the world seems to slow down for a second. He's so distracted that his popsicle literally falls out of his mouth and hits the floor. Internally, he panicked. Is this a heart attack? Am I dying at 18? Sunri mentions that every girl on the island is obsessed with this guy and his bookstore. She shares some local tea about the wind chime at his door, claiming it's a signal for when he's entertaining guests. Supposedly, if the chime is gone, there's a woman inside, and nobody should disturb him. Mian wonders if this guy is actually just a massive player. The mystery of the neighbor lingers as the night deepens over the quiet neighborhood. Later, Mian is relaxing in his room, trying to get some reading done. Suddenly, a loud snap echoes through the house. The power goes out, and Grandpa realizes they've blown a fuse with no spares in sight. He tells Mian to go ask the neighbor for help, making Mian's anxiety levels go through the roof. He tries to give himself a pep talk, reminding himself he's just there for a fuse, not a date. Yet he reaches the door and rings the bell, his heart hammering against his ribs. The door opens, and Mian is blindsided by the neighbor standing there in just a towel again. The man recognizes him as the kid from next door. Mian's face turns into a tomato as he stammers out a greeting. He gets defensive, blurting out that he's 18 and practically an adult. Standing next to this mountain of a man, Mian realizes just how small he actually is. The neighbor gives him a faint, mysterious smile that doesn't help Mian's composure at all. He calmly asks how he can help the flustered teen. Mian explains the power situation, asking if he has a spare fuse. The guy invites him inside while he goes to check, acting completely casual about his lack of clothes. Mian steps into a house that is basically a library, with stacks of books everywhere. He follows the shirtless Titan through the hallway, trying very hard not to stare at his back. Internally, he squealed. Focus, Mian. You're here for electricity, not eye candy. He spots a rare comic on the shelf and geeked out immediately. Suddenly, a scream for help echoes from the living room. It's the little girl from earlier, and she's currently losing a high-stakes game of Mario. Mian can't help himself and starts giving her pro-gamer tips on how to stomp the enemies. He takes the controller and shows off his skills, button mashing like a legend. With Mian's help, they soar through the level together. The boss gets absolutely wrecked. They secure the win, and the little girl is hyped beyond belief. She cheers for Mian, calling him amazing. But then, Mian notices something that makes his heart sink. The little girl has a prosthetic leg, and he realizes she's been through a lot for someone so young. Before he can process it, the neighbor returns, finally having put some actual clothes on. He holds up the fuse, but Mian feels a tiny, secret pang of disappointment that the towel show is over. Mian reaches out to take the fuse, thanking him for the help, but the neighbor doesn't just hand it over. He leans in close. He asks Mian if he even knows how to install a fuse. Mian freezes, his heart racing at the proximity, but he notices the guy's mood value is only a neutral 50. Internally, he sighed. Great, I'm short-circuiting, and he's probably thinking about what to have for dinner. The little girl, Q, starts begging to go see the grandpa who sells herbal eggs next door. Mayan is totally confused by the sudden change in topic. The neighbor decides to just go over and fix the fuse himself, taking Mian's hand as they head out. They walk back to Mian's house like a weirdly domestic little trio. The night is dark, but the vibes are shifting. Back at Mian's place, Grandpa is entertaining Q with shadow puppets while the neighbor gets to work. Mian holds the flashlight, trying to be helpful while standing right behind the guy. The tension in the small space is palpable as Mian watches him work. He finally musters up the courage to introduce himself properly. The man looks back and introduces himself as Yan Kongshan. Mian looks at the wind chime and finally understands the poetic verse written on it, realizing that Yan Kongshan and his daughter might be the most interesting neighbors he's ever had. Yan Kongshan is busy handling the fuse box like a total pro, working with the precision of someone who's done this 1,000 times. Mayan is stuck playing flashlight duty, but he's basically mesmerized by how tall this man actually is. He's standing next to him. Mian feels like a literal thumb, and he starts internally vowing to start chugging milk and hitting the gym just to get on Yan's level. He's so lost in his glow-up fantasies that he completely forgets how to hold a light straight. Yan has to call him out for the curt beam, leaving Mian stumbling over his words and apologizing like a panicked NPC. With a satisfying click, the power is finally back on. Yan hands back the tools, grazing Mian's hand and causing a mini-system error in the boy's brain. Yan warns him that the building's wiring is ancient, and he should tell his elders to call a professional electrician. Internally, Mian is low-key offended, grumbling, "I'm 18, not 5, stop calling them my elders." After a quick snack break, Yan gathers little Q to head home, telling Mian to hit him up if he needs any more help. Grandpa waves them off, but Mian is standing there looking like he just saw a ghost and forgot how to speak. As the door shuts with a clack, Mian realizes he's a total failure at hospitality. Internally, he screams, "I didn't even say thank you properly." Panicking, he snatches 2 random apples and sprints out the door like his life depends on it. He races down the stairs, his heart pounding against his ribs. He catches them on the street, breathless and holding the fruit out like a weird, crunchy offering. Yan just turns around and stares, probably wondering why this kid is dashing out with snacks in the middle of the night. Mian thrusts the apples forward, begging him to take them as a thank you. Yan takes them with a calm "you're welcome," while Q immediately asks if she can eat one right now. Yan tells her she has to brush her teeth afterward, and the two continue their walk home. Mian watches them go, feeling his face heat up to a dangerous degree. He crouches down in a spiral of shame, wishing he'd given them an ice-cold cola instead, because everyone likes cola. He's terrified. Yan thinks he's just a stingy weirdo who only gives out fruit. Suddenly, a stylish neighbor walking her white dog spots him. Mian snaps back to reality, trying to act normal despite the internal screaming. She mentions that his grandpa is stoked to have him around, which hits Mian right in the feels. She rests a hand on his shoulder, giving him some much-needed comfort. She even hands him a rose from the garden, telling him not to worry so much about the small stuff. Mian puts on a brave face, but his synesthesia is the real reason he's staying here. The flashback time, his childhood was a mess of screaming parents and constant fighting. He had a hunch they wouldn't last, and he was right. When his mom got a new boyfriend, Mian saw her happiness indicator skyrocket the moment he agreed to move out. The colors in his vision were chaotic and overwhelming during that time. Realizing he was becoming the third wheel in his own family, he packed his bags for his grandpa's place. Even though his mom asked him to stay, her emotional colors told a completely different story. Mian realized then that seeing through people makes life incredibly difficult. At least at Grandpa's, the vibes are actually genuine and he feels at home. Fast forward to a sunny day on Nanpu Street. Mian's friend Sunri is dragging him along, claiming she's suddenly become a massive bookworm. She's acting all bubbly, but Mian knows her better than that. Internally, he scoffs. "Like hell, I'd believe you." She finally cracks and admits she's just simping for a hot guy working at a bookstore nearby. Mian sighs, realizing he's been recruited as her emotional support wingman. They step into the bookstore where the air conditioning is a total lifesaver, and the wind chimes set a chill mood. Sun Rui immediately huddles up to the staff member, Wen Ying, while Mian looks on from the side. Checking the guy's indicator, it's a solid 75, totally neutral and professional. Mian internally notes that Sun Rui has a long way to go to break that poker face. Mian wanders off to the architecture section, distracted by the massive piles of books. He's low-key worried about fire safety, with all these stacks blocking the stairs. He realizes this place feels exactly like Yan Kongshan's house, and then it clicks Sun Rui mentioned Yan owns a bookstore on this island. He spots a book he's been wanting to read, but he's blindsided by the fact that it's on the top shelf. He tries to reach for it, but shorties apparently have no rights in this shop. Just as he's about to give up, a massive arm reaches over him. It's Yan Kongshan, looking like he just walked off a movie set. Yet Yan hands him the book and asks if he's here with his girlfriend. Mian quickly clarifies that Sun Rui is just a friend who's currently hunting one of the staff members. Yet Yan hits him with a smirk, mentioning that the guy is super popular and Sunri is going to have to work way harder. Mayan just nods, clutching his book while his heart does Olympic gymnastics. Sunri finally calls him over to leave, and Mayan is relieved to escape before he spontaneously combusts. He takes his leave, promising to see Yan later. But later at a cafe, Sunri is glowing with a happiness level of 80. Even though she didn't find her book, she notices Mayan acting sus and asks him point blank if he's a virgin. Mayan nearly chokes on his drink, internally screaming at her lack of filter. He tries to play it off, but he's clearly short-circuiting. He tries to hide behind his arms, but she keeps poking the bear, asking why he never had a relationship in high school. As she thinks it's a pity someone as cute as him stayed single. Mayan thinks back to his messy past. In his first year, he rejected a girl because he already knew his sexual orientation. Then, in his second year, he thought a guy liked him because of a pink indicator. But the dude ended up being a toxic bully who spread rumors that Mian was a pervert. Mian ended up isolated and just focused on his studies to avoid the drama. Sun Rui tells him a romantic encounter will pop up when he least expects it, and Mian's brain immediately generates a spicy image of Yan Kongshan in a robe. He tries to stay cool, taking a long sip of his drink to hide his blushing face. He checks his reflection in the window, seeing a neutral indicator at first. He tells himself that he's the slow burn type, and there's no way he's fallen for someone he's only met twice. He looks at reflection one more time, confident that nothing is showing above his head. But the window doesn't lie. His indicator suddenly turns bright yellow and jumps to an 85. Mian is caught in 4K by his own power. He's officially down bad for the neighbor. Mian is having a full-blown existential crisis in the middle of the night. He's basically caught himself in 4K, wondering if he actually fell for the stoic Yan Kongshan at first sight. Then, unable to sleep, he rolls out of bed to get some air. He heads to the window, but instead of a peaceful night view, he finds something much more interesting. Down below, Yan is being cornered by a girl in a white dress, and the vibes are definitely awkward. Internally, Mian is shook, realizing he just stumbled onto Yan stone-cold rejecting someone. Yan doesn't seem fazed at all, looking like a total mood as he lights up a cigarette in the dark. Mian accidentally makes eye contact and has to commit to the most awkward of his life. Yan looks up and asks why he isn't in bed yet. Yan claims it's just too hot to sleep, so he came out to catch a breeze. Before heading back in, he tells Mian to get some rest, calling him kid one last time. Mian pouts at the screen, thinking, I'm literally a legal adult, but okay. Needing to vent, he pulls out his phone to document the night. He snaps a photo of the sky through his window bars. He heads to his social media feed to post it, seeking some digital validation. Once the post is live, he finally feels like he can breathe. Almost immediately, his phone starts buzzing with notifications. His followers are all over it, commenting about the moon and asking if something is bothering him. Since his synesthesia makes real-life socializing a minefield, he's basically moved his entire social online. Sometimes, a quick post is the only thing that makes him feel better. Behind a screen, he doesn't have to worry about people being fake or their emotions short-circuiting his brain. The next morning, the sun is out and the birds are chirping, but Mian is still exhausted. He heads downstairs only to find a surprise guest little Q is just hanging out. Mian is confused and asks where her dad went. Q explains that Yan went to the city to restock the bookstore and couldn't take her along. So, naturally, Yan just dropped her off at Mian's place. The grandpa enters the room, confirming that he's heading out to run his stall and Mayan is on babysitting duty. Grandpa is all smiles, hyped because business for his herbal eggs is absolutely booming. Mian tries to entertain the kid, but it's a struggle. She can't read comics and SpongeBob is already over for the day. But finally, Q suggests they head to her place to play some video games. They fire up a bootleg version of Mario, but Mian is straight up struggling with the controls. Suddenly, the door clicks open and Yan walks in looking effortlessly cool. He catches them mid-game and asks if they're having a tournament. Mian's heart starts doing backflips, and he can barely get out a yeah. Internally, he's screaming at himself to calm down before. Yan thinks he's a total creep. Q doesn't care about the tension and begs her dad to help her beat the level. Yan teases her, asking why she's so obsessed with games. Q just shrugs him off, reminding him that she's a kid and this is literally her job. Yan eventually caves and sits down next to Mian to take the second controller. They start playing together, their characters jumping across the screen in sync. Mian is sitting as stiff as a board, terrified of making a bad impression, while sitting so close to his crush. He's hyper-focused on the screen, his eyes sparkling as they finally reach the end. They beat the level with fireworks and everything, and Q finally runs off to the bathroom. Left alone, Mian tries to make small talk about Yan's trip to the Confucian temple for books. But thanks to his synesthesia, he sees a floating 58 and some negative numbers. Yan is clearly in a terrible mood. Yan looks at him intensely, and Mian wonders if he's about to get scolded. Instead, Yan just asks if he's feeling hot. Mian tries to play it off, blaming his red face on the summer heat. He mentions he's from Rainbow Town, where it's way cooler than this island. Yan hands him a cold can of soda to help him cool down. Mian tries to open it, but his hands are shaking so much that it slips. Yan takes the can back, pops it open for him, and hands it over like a total gentleman. Seeing an opening, nervously asks if he can come over every day to read books, using the lack of AC at his place as a total cover story. Yan agrees, but says he's only home after 8 p.m. Mian suddenly remembers the girl from last night and asks if he'll be a bother. Yan gives him a confused look, not catching the hint at first. Then he realizes what Mian is talking about and just laughs, saying he isn't in the mood for any disturbances lately. Just then, Q returns and Mian realizes it's time to head home before his grandpa worries. He stands up to leave, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. He gives Q a little head pat, telling her it's dinner time. She's surprisingly cool with it, promising they'll beat the next level together next time. Mian gives a final, genuine smile as he heads for the door. As he walks out, he feels like a total idiot for bringing up the girl Yan rejected. He stops in his tracks, feeling the weight of the awkwardness. He turns back to say a quick goodbye. Yan looks at him and casually drops a "see you tonight." Mian's brain nearly melts. But then he notices Yan's mood value has jumped back up to a safe 76. He cheers up instantly, shouting back that he'll be there. As night falls over the island, the moon is bright and the streets are quiet. Mian is back at Yan's place later that evening, officially starting their study sessions. He's reading a book about mysteries, but he's actually just watching Yan. He checks Yan's mood again, still a solid 76, which is basically the safe zone. Thinking he needs a safe topic to keep the conversation going, he brings up Sunri's crush on the bookstore employee, Wen Ying. Yan pauses his reading, looking intrigued, as Mian takes it a step further and asks if the bookstore needs any extra help. Determined to be more than just a neighbor, Mian shoots his shot and asks Yan Kongshan for a job at the bookstore. He isn't making it easy, though, laying down the law about 8 a.m. start times and wondering if the kid can actually handle the grind. Mian is basically a yes man at this point, agreeing to anything just to secure the bag and the man. When Yan asks if he even knows how to organize a shelf or talk to customers, Mian insists he's a fast learner. Internally, he's doing a victory lap when Yan finally caves and tells him he can start the very next day. Mian is absolutely beaming, promising to give it his all while secretly celebrating his successful infiltration. Green Plum Island is currently in its peak season, famous for its green gauges that draw in crowds from all over. The South Street is the place to be, and with the Weather secondhand bookstore right in the middle of the action, business is booming. Mian is already on the clock when he spots a familiar face outside. It's his best friend Sunri, who's out here on her bike trying to offload some of her family's apple harvest. She's shook that someone as lazy as Mian actually landed a job, but she quickly realizes this is her golden ticket. She immediately begs for a spot on the team, desperate to be near her own crush, Wen Ying. Mia is to shut that down fast, reminding her she's supposed to be guarding her father's orchard. Sunri is already in her Delulu era, imagining the two of them getting cozy in a small, cramped storage room together. Mian has to physically stop her before she starts writing fanfic about her own life. He tells her to quit the silly talk and focus on selling her fruit, though he admits the harvest looks great. Sunri tries to guilt-trip him into buying the whole lot, but Mian settles for just 6 apples. She takes the win, looking way too satisfied with the small sale. As she pedals off, she leaves Mian with one final mission. He has to be her wingman and tell Wen Ying how pure and kind she is. Mian heads back inside, apples in hand, and checks in with the other staff member. It turns out the guy found the exact book Sunri was looking for earlier. He pulls out a copy of The Golden Lotus, and Mian's jaw nearly hits the floor. Internally, he's dying of laughter, thinking that Sunri has officially been caught in 4K with her spicy reading tastes. After the apple drama, Mian heads to the staff lounge, but the boss is nowhere to be found. He figures Yen must be in the back doing some serious stock-taking. He knocks on the door of the stockroom to see what's up. Yen is indeed back there, looking stoic as ever, and tells Mian to start checking the inventory on a specific shelf. Mian is ready to prove his worth as the employee of the month. He dives into the task, but the back room is a total dust trap. These books haven't been touched in ages, and the stacks go all the way to the ceiling. Mian starts sneezing his lungs out from all the dust. Suddenly, a wild mouse appears from the shadows, squeaking like it owns the place. Mian loses his absolute mind and yeets the book he's holding at the tiny intruder. The book lands right on top of the mouse, trapping it. But instead of running away, the mouse looks absolutely heated, staring Mian down like it's ready for a cage match. Mian starts backing away in slow motion, literally apologizing to a rodent. He frantically calls out for his boss, his voice cracking with pure terror. He's shaking as he realizes the mouse is about to make a move. The rodent swishes its tail and lunges forward at high speed. Mian lets out a soul-piercing scream for help. Yen looks up, completely blindsided by the sudden chaos. In a move of pure survival instinct, Mian leaps into Yen's arms, clinging to him like a terrified koala. Yen is left standing there, stunned, holding the boy while the world's tiniest threat scampers around. Yen just blinks, calling out name to get him to snap out of it. He calmly explains that the mouse is probably long gone by now and tells Mian he can finally get down. Yen picks up the discarded book, telling Mian to head back out while he finishes up. Mian scurries away, internally screaming about how he just made a total fool of himself in front of his crush. But things go from bad to worse when Mian looks outside and sees a group of tourists that make his heart stop. He recognizes them instantly, his blood turning to ice. He watches his old high school classmates walk by, wondering what on earth they're doing on this island. He ducks back into the shadows, hiding until the coast is clear. Yan notices the sudden shift in vibe and asks if Mian actually knows those people. Mian drops a bombshell, admitting that they don't like him because he's gay. He starts thinking back to his high school days and Fu Wei, who used to be his only real friend. They were tight, always hanging out and sharing snacks in class. But everything changed on one fateful day. Mian's synesthesia acted up and he saw a pink indicator above Fu Wei's head, which usually meant attraction. Being young and confused, Mian started ghosting him because he didn't know how to handle the situation. Fu Wei eventually cornered him, demanding to know why Mian was acting so suspicious. That's when Mian saw the indicator turn a raging red, making him think his friend really did have feelings for him. Deciding to be brave, Mian decided to just come clean and ask the big question. He asked Fu Wei if he liked him, suggesting they could maybe give it a try. The reaction was a total disaster as Fu Wei's numbers plummeted and he screamed in disgust, denying everything. He looked at Mian with pure hatred, calling him weird and a freak. From that moment on, the friendship was dead and buried. If that wasn't bad enough, rumors spread through the whole school, and Mian became a complete social outcast. Back in the present, Yan processed the heavy story, realizing why Mian is so guarded. He looks at the boy, who's still clearly haunted by the rejection of his former best friend. After dropping the truth bomb about his past, Mian braces for impact, but Yan Kongshan just calmly asks if his old friends hated him because of his sexuality. Yan surprisingly calls it a win, claiming Mian is better off without fake friends who can't handle the truth. Though still feeling vulnerable, Mian asks the million-dollar question. Does Yan think he's disgusting? The answer is a solid no, and Mian can feel the weight of the world lifting off his shoulders. They stand together in the quiet bookstore, a rare moment of peace in the middle of all the drama. Internally, Mian is vibrating because synesthesia tells him Yan is being 100% real with him. But he realizes Sun Ru wasn't capping when he said Yan's charm is basically a cheat code for making people catch feelings. Still watching Yan's every move, Mian thinks that while a full-blown relationship might be a stretch, maybe just maybe he could score a kiss. He's out here blushing like a rom-com protagonist while trying to keep his cool. Yan reaches out for a head pat, telling Mian that this whole trauma thing isn't as big of a deal as he thinks. The kindness is almost too much, and Mian has to pretend he's about to sneeze just to stop himself from leaking tears in 4K. Internally, he's thinking, they aren't worth it, but you definitely are. Yan heads out to clear the air, leaving Mian to hide behind the door like he's playing a stealth mission. Outside, the high school bullies are already acting like they own the place, but Yan isn't having it. He steps into the frame with that manager-on-duty energy and tells them to pipe down. The bullies try to act tough, complaining about the service and calling the books trash, because apparently being a hater is their only personality trait. One of them finally realizes they're totally outclassed and drags the others out, offering a half-hearted apology. They leave shouting insults like middle schoolers who just lost a game of Fortnite. Once the coast is clear, Yan gives Mian the green light to come out of hiding. Mian is basically a puddle of gratitude at this point, thanking him for the save. Yan points out Mian says, "Thank you way too much." But Mian just can't help it when the guy is constantly carrying the team. He flashes a bright smile, looking like a literal ray of sunshine. Even the stoic Yan can't help but crack a tiny, almost invisible smile in return. They head out for a meal, and Mian is relieved that things haven't changed after his big confession. The next stop, picking up Yan's daughter, QQ, from kindergarten. Mian is feeling himself, thinking about how comfortable he's becoming around his crush. But the vibe shifts instantly when Mian notices Yan's mood value is a chill 65, only to see it start plummeting. Suddenly, Yan's meter hits 57 and turns red, the universal sign for someone is about to get wrecked. Mian spots a man in a suit with glasses standing nearby, and it's obvious this guy is the reason for the bad vibes. Yan hops out of the car, telling Mian to stay put while he handles business. Mian watches the confrontation from the window. Worried, Yan is about to throw hands. Interestingly, the mystery man's mood value turns blue, showing he's more regretful than aggressive. When Yan finally walks back to the car, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. He slams the door so hard Mian nearly jumps out of his skin. Mian tries to lighten the mood by asking who the guy was, but Yan's mood value just keeps dropping. It hits a low of 52, and Yan looks like he's one comment away from a total short circuit. Mian reaches out, genuinely worried, and asks if he's all right. He's hoping for a moment of connection, but he gets blindsided instead. Yan snaps, telling Mian not to pry into other people's business like a nosy kid. Internally, Mian's heart just did a backflip into a trash can after being told to stay in his lane. The rest of the drive is dead silent, and Mian looks like his soul has left his body. They sit in the car like two strangers who just had a fender bender. Mayan is spiraling, wondering why Yan lashed out when he was just trying to be a supportive employee. When they reach the school, Mayan tries to focus on QQ, who has been surprisingly well-behaved lately. Her teacher, Miss Zhao, brings her out and starts gushing about how great the kid is. She's blushing and acting extra, and Mayan realizes she's totally gunning for the stepmom title. He feels a massive wave of insecurity, thinking her gender alone gives her an automatic head start in the race for Yan's heart. Once they're back in the car, QQ drops a total truth bomb. "Shan, Miss Zhao likes you." Yan tries to shut it down, but QQ is on a roll, revealing the teacher asked if he was single. She even mentioned she told the teacher exactly what kind of girls Yan likes. That according to the kid, Yan's type is older, sophisticated women with long hair, basically the total opposite of a teenage boy. Mian takes 100 points of emotional damage, realizing he's the literal antithesis of Yan's type. His inner cheerleader tries to tell him to go for it anyway, but he's not feeling very optimistic. As they drive into the sunset, Mian considers growing out his hair just to check one box on Yan's list. Back at home, Mian waves goodbye to QQ, feeling like a side character in his own life. His grandpa notices the gloomy aura and wonders if the kid is coming down with something. Mian flops onto his bed, his brain stuck on a loop about the long hair comment. He gets so desperate that he actually posts on Weibo, asking how long it takes to grow shoulder-length hair. He hides under his pillow, waiting for the internet to solve his problems. The comments tell him it'll take at least 6 months, which is a total L since he'll be in university military training by then, and have to cut it anyway. Just as he's about to give up, he hears Yan's voice outside, yelling at the glasses guy again. Yan is absolutely fuming, threatening to call the cops if the man doesn't disappear right now. Mian watches from the balcony, wondering who this man is and why Yan hates him so much. He decides to mind his business this time, not wanting to get roasted again for digging into personal affairs. The next morning, Mian's alarm clock is screaming that it's day 2 of his new job. He realizes he's late and panics, thinking he's already failed the probationary period. Yet he dashes to the balcony to see Yan is waiting, but the driveway is empty. His heart sinks. Yan didn't wait for him, and he didn't come to get him. Mian slumps down, convinced he's been fired or worse, that Yan is done with him for being too nosy. Internally, he's crying, "How can he just ditch me when I'm working for free?" He drags himself downstairs, looking like a ghost in his pajamas. Grandpa has a full breakfast spread ready, but Mian has zero appetite for eggs and love. He mopes through his meal, feeling like he's lost his only chance at getting closer to Yan. Grandpa tells him to take it easy and offers to ask for another day off if he's still feeling sick. Mian's eyes go wide. Wait. Grandpa already asked for a day off for him. Mian wakes up in a total panic, realizing he's missed his shift and assuming his job is officially cooked. He asks Grandpa if he was the one who called in for him. Grandpa casually confirms it, explaining that since the kid looked like he was about to collapse from exhaustion, he asked Yan Kongshan to give him the day off. He gives Mian a reassuring head pat, telling him to just relax. Internally, Mian is doing a full victory lap with sparkles and pastries. He realizes Yan wasn't actually trying to ghost him or fire him. It was just a misunderstanding. Relieved that his life isn't over, he gives his grandpa a massive squeeze. Grandpa just laughs and hugs his favorite grandson back. Suddenly, a loud thud echoes from outside, breaking the wholesome moment. A chubby cat is caught in 4Ksing a fish right off the drying rack, and Mian thinks it's the cutest thief ever. Grandpa, however, isn't having it and starts chasing the feline bandit across the yard. Mian can't help but laugh at the chaos, telling Grandpa he's never going to catch a cat with that low agility. Grandpa gives up on the chase and starts filling a bowl with water. He explains that since the smoked fish is salty, the cat is going to be parched. He's worried the poor thing will get a stomach ache if it drinks cold water from somewhere else. Internally, Mian smirked. What a total softie. Seeing his grandpa's kindness gives Mian a sudden boost of main character energy. He calls out to Grandpa with a new plan. Even though he has the day off, he hops on his bright pink scooter, still wearing his pajamas, determined to show up at the bookstore. Grandpa hands over the keys, a bit confused why the kid is so eager to work during summer break. Mian waves goodbye and zooms off, feeling like he's on top of the world. The sky is clear, and his mood is finally back in the green. He arrives at the shop, where a cat wind chime greets him at the door. His coworker, Wen Ying, is blindsided to see him, asking why he's there when he literally requested a day off. Mian plays it cool, saying he's feeling better and it's no big deal. He tells Wen Ying to get back to work while he goes to change into his uniform. Wen Ying just stares, processing the fact that his coworker just showed up to a professional establishment in cat-patterned PJs. Mian heads to the storage room to swap clothes. Just as he's getting ready, he hears the door creak open. He ducks behind a locker, wondering if it's a customer or his boss. It's Yan Kongshan, looking as stoic as ever. Mian freezes, his brain short-circuiting over whether he should say hi or just pretend to be a piece of furniture. He watches Yan from the shadows, noticing the man looks completely indifferent. Mian checks the mood indicator and sees it's at a solid 60, which means Yan probably isn't harboring a grudge. Finally, Mian gathers his courage and steps out. He awkwardly brings up the no days off rule he previously mentioned. Yan just gives him a blank stare, making the tension in the room spike. Without saying much, Yan turns around and starts to walk out, and Mian stands there feeling like a total clown, wondering if he's still on the boss's blacklist. But then, Yan suddenly pulls a U-turn. Mian isn't prepared for the sudden movement and accidentally slams right into him. Yan catches him before he can hit the floor, leading to a classic accidental embrace. The man quickly pulls away, stammering out a thank you while blushing like a tomato. Yan stays silent, which only makes Mian spiral even harder. Internally, he panicked. Is he about to drop the "you're fired" bomb? He's convinced this is the end of his career at the bookstore. The mood shifts when Yan looks down an apple in his hand. He breaks the silence, admitting he was in a bad mood the day before. He holds out the apple, telling Mian not to take his previous outburst personally. Mian's jaw practically hits the floor as he realizes this is a literal peace offering. He catches a glimpse of a faint, rare smile on Yan's face. When Mian doesn't move, Yan asks if he actually wants the fruit or not. Chibi Mian lunges forward, practically vibrating with joy as he accepts the apology. Holding the apple like it's a legendary loot item, Mian can't stop smiling. Yan tells him to take it easy and not push himself if he's still feeling under the weather. He even gives Mian a gentle head pat, which basically sends the boy into orbit. Mian checks the mood meter and sees it's climbed up to 70, but the good vibes are short-lived. Yan's phone buzzes, and his mood immediately tanks back down to 50. He tells Mian he has to take a call and steps away. Mian overhears him talking to an auntie, and the conversation sounds heavy. Yan mentions that someone named Ding Baiju needs to stay away from his sister. The bookstore sign hangs quietly as the day winds down. Later, Mian waves goodbye to Wen Ying as they close up for the night. Yan and Mian walk home together under a sunset sky. Mian notices Yan is still stuck at a mood level of 50 after that phone call. Internally, he wondered, should I suggest a gaming session to cheer him up? They finally reach their street, and Mian points out where he parked his ride. He puts on his helmet, preparing to head the rest of the way. Yan looks at him and casually mentions that the pink scooter actually suits him. Mian is so flustered by the compliment that he accidentally pinches the throttle and zooms off like a rocket. Chibi Mian is seen wobbling away on his scooter, dying of embarrassment. Behind him, Yan actually lets out a genuine, warm smile. Mian looks back and catches it, his heart doing backflips. Yan quickly regains his composure, clearing his throat and telling Mian to be careful on the road. Mian promises he will, still reeling from seeing that smile. He waves one last time, shouting that he'll see Yan tonight. As he rides away, Mian feels like he's glowing brighter than the sunset. Night falls over the island, with shooting stars streaking across the dark sky. The lights are on in Mian's house as the family settles in. Inside, Mian asks Yan for another day off, explaining that he needs to accompany his aunt to the graveyard. Yan is curious about the occasion, and Mian explains it's a tradition for the Calm sisters. He reveals that these women never marry or have children, dedicating their lives to their sisterhood instead. His aunt is the last surviving member of the group on the island, so she has a lot of responsibilities to handle. Yan stops what he's doing and asks if they need any help with the preparations. Mian politely declines, saying Yan should focus on work while he handles the family stuff. While they talk, Yan is busy styling QQ's hair into pigtails. The little girl is a genius, triumphantly holding up a solved Rubik's Cube. She immediately clings to Yan, showing off her accomplishment. Mian watches the two of them, feeling a mix of confusion and warmth at the domestic scene. Yan decides to play matchmaker for a play date, telling QQ that if she solves the Rubik's Cube, she gets a full hour of video games with Mian. Mian is totally blindsided by the sudden offer. Yan leans in and whispers that he didn't actually think the kid could solve it, essentially using Mian as a prize. He apologizes for the trouble, looking way too smooth while doing it. Mian insists it's no big deal because he actually likes gaming too. Internally, Mian is hype, thinking, finally, my time to shine. But as he watches Yan walk away, he can't help but think the guy is a natural-born flirt. He wonders if Yan is only this relaxed because Mian is a guy, so he doesn't feel the need to keep up a refined image. Is this just Yan showing his true, unpolished colors? Before he can overthink it, QQ is already bossing him around on the screen, screaming for him to jump. They settle in for an intense session while Yan plays the role of the chill dad in the background. Eventually, they clear the level and QQ is absolutely stoked. But the fun ends when Yan checks his watch and realizes it's already 9 p.m. bedtime for the little one. Mian gets ready to head out, waving goodbye to the sleepy kid. Yan isn't about to let him walk home alone, though, insisting on escorting him. Mian points out that his house is literally right next door, so it's not exactly a trek through the wilderness. Still, he finds the gesture a bit flirty, and it's definitely doing things to his heart rate. He tries to use his synesthesia to check Yan's vibe, but the colors above Yan's head aren't showing any romantic pinks or yellows. Mian immediately feels like a clown for overthinking it again. They reach the doorstep, and Mian fumbles with his keys, feeling the awkward tension. Usually, Yan just stops at the gate, but tonight he's gone the full distance. Damian's brain is short-circuiting as he wonders if he's supposed to invite the boss in for coffee or something. Yan breaks the silence, telling Mian that even though he said no off days, he won't be mad if Mian needs a break to help his family. He even promises Mian can borrow 2 books for every day he works, which is a total win for a bookworm. Mian realizes Yan walked him all this way just to be supportive about his schedule. Here, he agrees to take the time if he gets tired, feeling a lot more relieved. With a final click of the door, the night ends. Mian waves one last time from the entrance as Yan heads back. Yet Yan gives a casual wave back, looking every bit the cool neighbor. The next day, it's back to reality under a bright blue sky. Mian is out in the woods helping his aunt, but he's struggling hard with the heavy bags. His aunt doesn't hold back, roasting him for having 0 stamina after such a short walk. Mian tries to power through, looking like a buffoon as he tries to act tough. His aunt just laughs at him, clearly enjoying his suffering. They eventually reach the family gravesite shaded by the trees. Mian is completely winded, while his aunt tells him he needs to be more like that fit neighbor of his. Mian takes a breather on the grass, thinking about Yan's height and frame. He tells his aunt he doesn't think he'll ever grow that big. She just tells him there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, leaving Mian speechless. As his aunt cleans the graves, Mian reflects on her life as a calm sister. She joined the group in her 20s and is now the last one left, carrying the responsibility for all those before her. Mian thinks about how society judges women who choose not to marry, labeling them spinsters or monks. He feels a kinship with them, thinking his own situation with synesthesia might be even more misunderstood. He gets lost in a swirl of colors, feeling the weight of being different. He asks his aunt if she thinks the other sisters ever had regrets about their choice. She admits she doesn't know about them, but she definitely doesn't regret it herself. Mian looks up at the sky, wondering if he'll be able to face the future's hardships as bravely as she does. He worries if he can handle the whispers and the judgment. He shields his eyes from the sun, feeling the challenge of his own path. His aunt stands up, stretching her back. She tells him that life isn't challenging for her because she's rich, so she's perfectly happy. Mian is totally deadpanned by her bluntness. She tells him to stop overthinking and focus on his studies, or he'll end up bald before his time. They pack up to head home since Grandpa is waiting with lunch. His aunt comments on what a good man Grandpa is, keeping the vibes light. But the peace is shattered when they arrive home to hear a heated argument. Mian hears someone threatening to call the police for trespassing and immediately sprints toward the house. He calls out for him to be careful, but he's already gone. He finds Grandpa facing off against a man in a sharp suit. Grandpa is furious, telling the guy he can't just barge in whenever he wants. The stranger tries to push past, and Mian jumps in to intervene. He grabs the guy's arm, stopping him in his tracks. Mian demands to know what's going on, putting himself between Grandpa and the intruder. He realizes this is the same guy with glasses who was stalking QQ earlier. Mian stays on guard, telling the guy not to come a single step closer. Grandpa explains that this weirdo keeps insisting on talking to QQ. Suddenly, the door opens, and everyone freezes. QQ walks out, rubbing her eyes after her nap. The man in the suit breaks down, crying out that he's her dad. Mian is absolutely floored. The aunt immediately pulls QQ away and tries to usher her back into the house while Mian holds the man back. The door slams shut, cutting the guy off. Grandpa isn't buying the dad story for a second, calling it total nonsense. He threatens to call the cops if the guy doesn't leave immediately. Mian looks at the guy's colors and notices they aren't turning pervert yellow, meaning he might actually be telling the truth. Still, Mian tells him that even if he is the father, he can't just barge in and terrify a child. The man looks defeated, but things are about to get much worse. A white BMW screeches to a halt outside. Yan Kongshan steps out, looking like he's ready to end someone's subscription to life. To the man, Ding Baiju snaps back, calling Yan and his sister irresponsible for keeping him from his daughter. Mian sees the tension reaching a breaking point and realizes they're about to throw hands. He tries to step between them to de-escalate, but Ding is too heated and shoves Mian out of the way. Mian loses his balance and goes flying. Everyone freezes in pure horror as they watch him fall. Mian hits the ground hard, and a pool of blood starts to form as Yan screams his name. Things just went from 0 to 100 real quick as Mian clutches his head, realizing he's actually bleeding from that nasty fall. Grandpa is absolutely losing it, checking the wound and praying his grandson doesn't have a permanent out-of-order sign on his brain. But Yan Kongshan has officially seen enough. He winds up and delivers a world-class knuckle sandwich straight to Ding Baizu's face. The deadbeat dad hits the floor, but Yan isn't done, pinning him down and looking ready to catch a felony charge. Internally, Mian panicked. If he doesn't stop now, I'm going to have to visit him in prison. Mian puts his own safety on the line and tackles Yan, begging him to chill before he actually ends the guy. Yan is breathing fire, reminding everyone that little QQ is still inside and shouldn't see this mess. Ding is left nursing a bruised ego, and a face that's definitely going to need an ice pack. Just as the chaos peaks, the flashing lights arrive, signaling that the authorities are here to kill the vibe. The group looks like they've been caught in 4K, wondering who snitched on their backyard brawl. It turns out, it was the aunt who called the 5 narrow because she wasn't about to let a home invasion turn into a murder scene. Cut to the police station where Mian is rocking a chick ice pack and the officer is handing out the ultimate middle school punishment, a 1,000-word self-reflection essay. The atmosphere is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal as they all sit around the table, forced to think about what they've done. The officer reviews the first submission, looking for any sign of actual remorse. Yan finishes his essay with the speed of a man who spent his entire youth in detention, making it look like a masterpiece. Meanwhile, Ding is staring at his blank page like it's a high-level math exam he didn't study for. Internally, Mian smirked. He looks exactly like me when I'm failing a test. The grandpa decides to play the "My grandson is a precious angel" card, reminding the cops that Mian is a top-tier student with a bright future. Yet he defends Yan's honor, claiming the punch was basically a public service for the sake of justice. Ding tries to gaslight everyone, claiming he shoved Mian by accident, which is a bold strategy when you're already the villain. The cop isn't buying the oopsie defense and shuts him down immediately. Mian is barely paying attention, looking a bit dazed from the whole ordeal. He feels a sudden tap under the table as someone's foot nudges his. He looks up, eyes wide, wondering what's going on. Yan leans in, his protective aura still at a maximum, and asks if the wound is still throbbing. Mian gives a soft, sweet smile, trying to act like he's not currently seeing stars. He insists he's totally fine, mostly because he doesn't want Yan to go back to jail. Yan looks relieved, his intense gaze softening just for a second. Finally, Yan hands over his finished essay, ready to get back to the real drama. The officer asks why they're even fighting, and Ding starts whining about his right to see his daughter. Yan shuts that down with a cold, "That's not your daughter," which sends the tension through the roof. Here Ding starts doing the math out loud, shouting about how the timeline perfectly matches his breakup with Yan's sister. You can see the vein popping in Yan's forehead as his patience hits 0. He slams his hand on the table so hard the room shakes, scaring the absolute daylight out of Ding. Yan warns him to keep his sister's name out of his mouth, looking like he's one word away from a round 2. He calls out Ding for being a gold digger who ditched a 10-year relationship for a wealthy woman. Ding looks like he just got hit with a truth bomb he can't deflect. Yan grills him, asking if he's only regretting his choices now because he realized he left a kid behind. Internally, Mian's brain was short-circuiting. Wait, so Yan is actually QQ's uncle? Ding tries to play the victim again, but Yan tells him to shut his mouth or he'll finish what he started in the yard. The threat is very real, and Yan's eyes are straight up terrifying. The officer has to tap the table to remind everyone that they are, in fact, still in a police station. He tells Yan to watch his tone and simmer down. The cop then asks Ding what his actual endgame is here. Ding says he wants to be a dad and build a relationship, which sounds great if he hadn't just assaulted a teenager. So Yan's response is short, sweet, and absolutely savage. "Over my dead body." The officer tells Ding that while there are legal channels, he can't just show up and harass people like a stalker. Ding is fuming, looking like a toddler who was told he can't have dessert. He storms out, slamming the door and promising that this isn't over. The room finally goes quiet, leaving the trio in a state of exhausted annoyance. Grandpa looks at Mian's head, his protective instincts kicking back in. He decides it's time to head home and actually treat the wound before it gets worse. He invites Yan to join them for lunch, because nothing heals a family feud like some home-cooked food. They arrive back at the house, which looks peaceful compared to the precinct. Mian's on the edge of the bed like a good boy, waiting for the first aid to begin. Her grandpa and aunt are standing there with the medicine, but they both look like they're about to faint at the sight of a little blood. They start arguing over who has the steadier hand, both too squeamish to actually do the job. Mian tries to offer to do it himself, but they aren't listening to the patient. Even little QQ is just standing there munching on snacks, watching the adults fail at basic nursing. Internally, QQ thought, "I'm the only mature person in this room." Suddenly, a pair of stylish slides enters the frame. It's Yan, wearing a hilarious chicken apron and carrying a plate of snacks like the ultimate domestic king. He agrees to take over medical duties since the other two are clearly useless. He grabs the first aid kit, looking focused and ready to work. Yan sits next to Mian and gently moves his hair to inspect the damage. Mian is suddenly very aware of how close they are, noting how warm Yan's hands feel against his skin. Internally, Mian was melting. "Forget the injury, I might die of a heart attack right now." He's so lost in the sauce that he doesn't even hear Yan calling his name. Yan asks again if he's feeling dizzy, and Mian snaps back to reality, shaking his head frantically. Yan starts applying the medicine, and Mian hisses a bit as it stings. To make things even more heart-fluttering, Yan leans and gently blows on the wound to soothe the pain, leaving Mian absolutely blindsided by the cuteness. After Yan finishes patching up the head wound, Mian can barely find the words to thank him. Yan tells him to skip work for the next few days to recover, but Mian insists it's just a minor scratch and he can totally handle it. Yan isn't taking no for an answer, leaning in with a soft smile and telling him to be good. Internally, Mian is absolutely short-circuiting, thinking that Yan's voice alone is a top-tier experience. The peaceful moment is interrupted when QQ drops a total bombshell, asking if that lunatic from earlier was actually her biological father. Mian tries to cover with a lie, but the kid is way too sharp. She knows Yan is her uncle because they visit her mother's grave every year. Since Yan calls her mom, says QQ did the math and realized Yan couldn't be her dad. Mian realizes he can't hide the truth anymore and asks what she wants to do. With a serious face, the little girl declares she wants nothing to do with her bio dad, only wants to stay with Yan. She practically shouts that Yan is her real dad in every way that matters. Mian gives her a comforting hug, promising that they will protect her no matter what. 2 days later, Yan is opening up the bookstore as usual. He looks up and is completely blindsided by a familiar face at the door. Mian is standing there in his work apron, looking bright-eyed and ready to go. Yan is immediately concerned, asking why he isn't taking more time off to let his head heal. Mayan explains that he couldn't stand sitting around doing nothing, but then he gets shy, admitting he actually just missed seeing everyone. Yan gives him a look that could melt butter, clearly touched by the sentiment. He gives Mian a gentle head pat, telling him to work hard so they can head home together later. Mian stands there looking like a dazed puppy, barely able to squeak out an okay. Duty calls when a coworker asks Mian to help out with some heavy lifting. He's handed a massive roll of paper and told to hold on while they find some tape. Mian is confused until he realizes it's a poster for something called the rain-stopping sacrifice. Since Mian is new to the island's traditions, the coworker explains it's a huge parade held every 3 years. They pray to the rain-stopping goddess to keep the island safe from floods. The wild part is that the goddess is always played by a handsome boy under the age of 18. It's a tradition where pretty boys dress up as fairies, which explains why the poster looks so flashy. Before Mian can process the weirdness, his friend rushes into the shop, screaming his name. She's freaking out over his bandaged head, demanding to know who dared to mess with his face. Mian manages to calm her down, realizing she's actually there on a mission to buy a very specific, spacey historical novel. She's hoping the book will give her some pointers on how to finally score with her crush, Wen Yang. Mian is skeptical, wondering if a book from the Ming Dynasty is really going to help her Riz game. She defends it as a masterpiece of history, but Mian just sighs and lets her have her moment. She notices the posters and asks if the bookstore is helping with the festival too. Mian confirms it, and she drops some major village gossip. The guy who was supposed to play the fairy is officially out. Mian asks what happened to cause such a sudden change. Leaning in close, she reveals that the candidate knocked someone up, and since the role requires a pure performer, he's been disqualified. Mian is stunned that being a virgin is a literal job requirement for a parade. Later that day, Mian heads home, feeling the weight of the day's drama. He walks into the house and hears voices, realizing they have unexpected guests. It turns out Grandpa is hosting a meeting with the village elders, and they look like they've been waiting for him. When they see Mian, their indicator numbers skyrocket, making Mian feel like he's walked into a trap. They ask if he knows the history of the rain-stopping festival. Mian nods, and they start explaining the legend. Back in the day, the island was devastated by massive floods and endless suffering. The local governor prayed for a savior, and a fairy in a white feather gown descended from the heavens. The fairy stopped the storms, the sun came out, and the island was saved. From that point on, the people lived in peace and never feared the water again. To keep the blessing alive, the islanders created a pretend fairy to lead the festival every few years. The tradition is taken very seriously to ensure good weather for the crops. Grandpa is still fuming that the original candidate ruined everything by becoming a teen dad. Looking at the way the elders are staring at him, Mian's gut tells him that he's about to be drafted into some very pretty, very feathered trouble. The island is buzzing because the annual rain-stopping sacrifice is missing its star, and the village elders have zeroed in on their target, Mian. The elder tries to sweet-talk him, mentioning how Grandpa said Mian is single and ready to mingle or at least has plenty of free time since he isn't dating. Mian is a bit skeptical, pointing out he's almost 19, but apparently the age limit for a heavenly fairy is more of a suggestion than a rule. Seeing him hesitate, the elder tells him to sleep on it, giving him a few days to make the final call. But then comes the kicker. The role of the Divine General has already been filled by none other than Yan Kongshan. Mian's brain short-circuits when he hears the Divine General's job is basically being a personal bodyguard who holds an umbrella for the fairy. Suddenly, a high-definition historical drama starts playing in Mian's head, featuring Yan as a stoic warrior. In this fantasy, Mian is the elegant goddess being cheered on by a crowd of adorable fans. The chaos strikes when a random rock comes flying toward the stage. Mian cowers in fear, but the Divine General is already moving. With a smooth move, Yan blocks the projectile with his massive umbrella. He then sweeps Mian off his feet, holding him close in a classic hero moment. Internally, Mian is screaming, main character energy achieved, and decides this is an opportunity he can't pass up. Snapping back to reality, he shouts for the elders to wait and declares he'll take the job. The elders are absolutely hyped, calling him a good guy for stepping up to save the festival. They head off to prepare the costumes, leaving Mian with a satisfied smirk. The grandpa thinks Mian is just being a sweetheart, but internally Mian admits, "No, grandpa, I was just straight up lusting after someone." Once 8 o'clock rolls around, Mian wastes no time heading over to Yan's place. He rings the bell, his heart probably doing parkour in his chest. Yan opens the door, looking effortlessly cool as usual. He's already heard the news and asks if Mian is really going to play the fairy. Mian plays it off, saying Grandpa basically voluntold him for the goddess role. Little Q pops up, confirming that Yan is indeed the divine general who will be by his side. Yan lets out a rare, genuine smile that could probably power the entire island. Mian is caught in 4K staring at him, completely blindsided by how handsome the guy looks when he's actually happy. Yan tells Mian to go play with the kid while he heads out for a quick smoke. Mian is basically floating on cloud 9, obsessing over the fact that this is the first time he's seen the man smile. QQ interrupts his daydreaming, dragging him over play. Mian heads over to join her on the rug, ready for some quality time. The kid is curious and asks what exactly a goddess is, so Mian explains they are deities that live in heaven. QQ wonders if this goddess is the same species as the weaver from the famous legend. Mian is impressed she knows the story, but the kid's version is a bit more grounded. She recounts how the coward basically committed a felony by stealing the weaver's clothes while she was bathing. And since he saw her naked, she was stuck with him until she got dragged back to heaven for punishment. QQ seriously asks if the goddess Mian is playing happens to know this weaver lady. She warns Mian that the weaver wasn't very smart and tells him to guard his clothes so no weirdos steal them. Mian chuckles, thinking this kid worries way too much. However, he looks over at Yan outside and his thoughts take a spicy turn. Internally, he muses that if Yan were the one stealing his clothes, he'd probably leave them in the most obvious place just to be helpful. He asks QQ what if the weaver actually liked the coward before the whole clothing theft incident. QQ isn't having it, roasting the weaver for having terrible taste in men who are basically thieves. Mian has to concede that she has a point, even if his own crush is currently standing on the balcony. Yan walks back in, catching the tail end of the conversation and wondering why they're talking about grand larceny. Mian leans in and whispers the details of their stranger danger lesson to Yan. Yan reassures QQ that he'll protect Mian before telling her it's officially bedtime. The kid agrees, leaving the two adults alone in the living room. Yan hands Mian a drink, which Mian accepts while trying to keep his cool. But then, the fan service levels go through the roof. Yan starts chugging his drink, looking like a literal model in the middle of a commercial. He then wipes his face, lifting his shirt just enough to flash some rock-hard abs, and Mian's brain completely melts. Mian frantically guzzles his own drink to hide his blushing face, internally screaming, "Hot damn, his figure is stunning." Trying to pivot back to a serious topic, Mian asks if Yan would ever do anything desperate to keep someone he likes by his side. He clarifies, asking if Yan would really go to extremes just to keep someone close. He even jokes about the whole stealing clothes thing, but his eyes are searching for a real answer. Yan gives him a heavy reality check, noting that at the end of the day, you simply can't keep those who want to leave. Mian is currently stuck in a mental loop, wondering if Yan has ever tried to persuade someone to stay, and if that person actually meant the world to him. He tries to shake off the heavy thoughts, telling himself that this is only the beginning of their journey together. To clear his head, he hops on Weibo to post about taking on a brand new challenge, promising his followers he won't screw it up. The comments section immediately descends into chaos, with fans asking if he's chasing a crush or just helping a cat give birth. Later that night, the duo arrives at the elementary school for their first official festival rehearsal. They head toward the gym, which is the only place big enough to house the massive parade equipment. Mian is so busy looking around that he completely misses a stray rock in his path. He ends up crashing right into Yan's back, which is honestly a top-tier place to faceplant. Yan doesn't even flinch, simply noting that it's dark and offering to lead the way. He reaches back and firmly grabs Mian's hand, sending Mian into a total romantic tailspin since this is their first time holding hands. Internally, Mian is screaming with joy, sporting a massive chibi grin as they walk. They finally reach the gym and have to let go, which Mian definitely considers a personal tragedy. He stares at his empty hand, wishing the road to the gym had been 10 miles longer. The director greets them with high energy, relieved that the main stars have finally arrived. Mian's jaw drops when he sees the palanquin for the rain-stopping sacrifice, realizing the scale of the event. The director explains that the structure is a local legend that's been repainted for decades. It's made of heavy rosewood and requires 24 people to carry, ensuring a stable ride for the goddess. He then pats Mian on the shoulder, casually mentioning that with Mian's small frame, Yan will have no trouble carrying him. Mian is absolutely blindsided when he learns the goddess must be carried barefoot to keep the white robes clean. Yan is a man of action and suggests they give it a trial run immediately. Mian's brain starts short-circuiting, because this level of skinship was definitely not in the fine print. Mian freezes up as Yan approaches, looking like he's about to see a ghost. Yan just tells him to relax, flashing a calm look that does absolutely nothing to lower Mian's heart rate. Without hesitation, Yan scoops him up in a perfect press carry while the director cheers them on. They start practicing the walk, though the chibi versions of them look a little more wobbly than the real deal. Yan casually notes that Mayan is way too light and tells him he needs to start eating more. He sets Mayan down and declares that from tomorrow on, he's ordering extra food for the kid. Mayan is left blushing as Yan makes him promise to finish every single bite. The rehearsal moves to the palanquin itself, where the atmosphere gets a bit more serious. Mayan has to kneel at the front while Yan sits cross-legged behind him, holding a ceremonial umbrella. The director barks out orders for the lifters to rise on the count of 3. As the massive structure begins to move, Mayan peeks back at his partner. Even though the palanquin is moving at a snail's pace, Mayan secretly wishes it would go even slower just to stay in this moment. By the time they finish, it's well past midnight. They return home to find Grandpa still awake, waiting for them in the living room. Little QQ has already fallen asleep on the sofa, looking completely peaceful. Yan gently pets her head, looking every bit the devoted guardian. Mian notices her prosthetic leg nearby and offers to carry it so Yan can focus on the sleeping girl. He follows behind as Yan carries QQ toward her room. Staring at the prosthetic in his arms, Mian goes quiet, feeling a surge of protectiveness for the small family. He carefully places the leg by her bed so she can reach it easily when she wakes up. On the walk back to Mian's place, Yan finally drops the heavy truth. The injury was caused by a car crash. He stops to light a cigarette, the smoke curling into the night air. Yan catches Mian's look and realizes the kid has been dying to know the full story. Mian tries to play it cool and denies being nosy, but his face gives him away instantly. He tells Yan it's okay if he doesn't want to talk about it, not wanting to force a painful memory. However, Yan decides it's time to share, asking if Mian is ready to hear the dark details. Mian promises to listen as they stand together in the moonlight. Yan explains that when Q was a baby, a reckless driver slammed into the taxi carrying her and his sister. His sister instinctively shielded QQ with her own body during the impact. She lost her life to save the baby, and QQ lost her leg in the process. Yan reveals his sister had basically raised him alone and thought she finally found happiness with a man named Ding Baizhu. But that deadbeat abandoned her for another woman before the crash even happened. Mayan is left stunned, his heart aching for the burden Yan has been carrying. Yan tells him it's late and he should go inside, but Mian has other plans. He steps forward and pulls Yan into a tight, supportive hug. Mian tells him not to be sad because he's done an incredible job raising Q, and his sister would be so proud of the man he's become. After their emotional heart-to-heart, Mian tells Yan it's getting late, and they should both probably get some actual sleep. Yan agrees, giving a simple wave as Mian heads inside, leaving the heavy atmosphere behind for the night. But the peace doesn't last long because the next morning, Rui shows up at Mian's door with a surprise guest. She's brought her cousin, Chudong, who just happens to be a professional makeup artist ready to turn Mian into a masterpiece. They haul in massive suitcases, and Mian realizes his room is about to become a full-blown dressing room for his upcoming goddess debut. Chudong starts unpacking her professional kit, looking like she's preparing for a high-fashion runway rather than a local festival. She slaps a bunny headband on Mian to keep his hair back, and Mian just goes along with it, looking like a confused snack. As Chudong gets closer, she's absolutely floored by Mian's skin. Noting that he doesn't have a single pore in sight, Rui pipes up while snacking on an apple, casually mentioning that back in the day, everyone used to mistake Mian for a girl because he was just that pretty. Chudong decides to go for a classic Tang Dynasty aesthetic, admitting this is her biggest project yet. An hour passes by as the makeup box gets raided, and the transformation begins in earnest. Finally, Chudong puts down her brushes and calls Rui over to witness the final result. Mian catches a glimpse of himself in the mirror and literally doesn't recognize the person staring back. Rui is low-key having a crisis, wondering how a guy in makeup can look 10 times better than her. To finish the look, Chudong fits Mian with a long, flowing wig and warns him that once the actual hairpins go in, his head is going to feel like it's carrying bricks. Internally, Mian is already feeling the struggle, thinking his scalp is being stretched to its absolute limit. But the girls aren't done yet, and Chudong sends Rui to grab the main attraction, the feathered outfit. Mian watches with wide eyes as the legendary costume is revealed. Rui holds up a shimmering, ethereal garment that looks like it belongs in a museum. Mian is stunned to learn these are actuard feathers, a tradition passed down through generations. This specific iteration was made with goose feathers 20 years ago, making Mian only the 4th person to ever wear it. Just when Mian thinks the transformation is complete, Chudong pulls out the ultimate weapon, a corset. The girls get a devious glint in their eyes as they prepare to snatch Mian's waist into the next dimension. Mian tries to protest, but it's too late for mercy. They tighten the laces so hard he's practically seeing stars, with the girls insisting a goddess can't have a waist bigger than theirs. Chudong tells him to just deal with it because the original owner was even shorter and thinner, leaving zero room for adjustments. Mian is left gasping for air, looking like he's about to ascend to the heavens for real this time. He stumbles toward the balcony, feeling like a ghost leaving its body, when a familiar scent of smoke catches his attention. He looks down and sees Yan standing by his car, looking as handsome as ever. Mian tentatively waves, wondering if Yan can even tell who he is under all that paint and hair. Yan looks up and for a second, Time seems to stop as he stares at the goddess on the balcony. He breathes out Mian's name, clearly blindsided by how stunning the younger boy looks. Mian thinks he's hallucinating from the lack of oxygen caused by the corset. But then he sees that Yan's mood value suddenly spikes into a bright, glowing yellow. Yellow usually means attraction or romantic interest, and Mian is caught in 4K trying to process if this is actually happening. The girls call him back inside, ending the brief moment of tension between the balcony and the street. Mian is left blushing under his makeup, his heart racing faster than the girls can pull his laces. He can't stop thinking about that yellow glow, wondering if he finally cracked the code to Yan's heart. The girls take some final photos, celebrating their successful makeover of the year. Even after they finish, Mian is stuck in a loop, questioning if he just imagined the whole thing. Chutong and Rui pack up their gear, satisfied that Mian is ready to slay the festival. They head out into the night, shouting their goodbyes and promising to see him at the big event. Mian waves them off, finally able to breathe again now that the corset is off. But as he looks out at the empty street, he regrets not going down to talk to Yan while he had the chance. He starts spiraling, wishing his synesthesia came with a rewind button so he could double-check that yellow mood value. Internally, he groans. Why is my brain like this? He walks back inside, trying to convince himself that Yan is probably just a straight guy who likes long hair. The next few days at the bookstore are a total vibe check, and not the good kind. Yan is acting completely normal, as if the balcony incident never happened, making Mian feel like he totally deluded himself. To make matters worse, a beautiful blonde girl starts showing up at the shop every single day. Mian watches from the sidelines as she approaches Yan, and his romantic rival radar starts pinging like crazy. Yan is his usual helpful self, but Mian is internally screaming for Yan to look his way instead. He tries to stay busy shelving books, but he's basically just a ball of jealousy in a school vest. When Yan offers to help the girl find a specific book, Mian feels like he's been completely ghosted while standing right there. He watches them interact, his heart sinking lower with every polite smile Yan gives her. As the days crawl by, Yan seems to be avoiding the bookstore more and more, citing various reasons that Mian doesn't quite buy. Mian is left wandering the aisles alone, feeling like the main character in a sad indie movie. He spends his shift sweeping the floor and staring at the door, hoping for a sign that things aren't as awkward as they feel. He looks at his reflection in the glass, wondering if he did something wrong to make Yan pull away. When they finally do run into each other, Yan just gives a cold, professional nod. There are no more head pats, no more lingering gazes, and zero physical skinship. Mian clutches his chest, realizing that the yellow mood might have been a fluke, and now he's just left with a major case of heartbreak. The day starts with Mian getting absolutely roasted's elder for being a total night owl, and staying up way too late reading comics. He tries to play it cool while sipping his drink, promising to keep the health advice in mind even though he looks like a walking zombie. Their morning peace is interrupted by the doorbell, signaling that it's time for the daily routine to begin. It's little QQ, looking adorable and ready to spend the day with her grandpa while the guys prep for the big event. With the good luck wishes locked in, the crew piles into a white BMW and speeds off to get the festival transformation started. Backstage, Chutong is already working her makeup magic, but she immediately notices that Mian's eye bags are reaching his chin. Internally, Mian is vibrating with nerves, and things only get more intense when he catches a glimpse of someone through the doorway. It's Yan Kongshan, and he's already half-dressed in his divine general gear, looking like a literal snack. Seeing him shirtless with those accessories has Mian's brain completely short-circuiting. While the prep continues, Rui enters the room acting like a total chaotic bestie, showing off a tray of dowries, as if she's preparing Mian for a royal wedding. She jokingly tells him to keep these treasures hidden so no future thieves can snatch them away once he's married. Chutong has to step in and tell the kids to quit playing with the props before they break something expensive. Finally, it's time for the finishing touches, with every detail from the lip tint to the intricate hairpieces being placed with precision. When the fan goes up, Mian is no longer a tired teen. He's a desert rose and a heavenly peony rolled into one. However, being a goddess on an empty stomach is a struggle, and Mian's midsection is currently screaming because he skipped breakfast. Yan Kongshan notices the goddess is about to faint from hunger and swoops in with a chocolate bar, proving he's got that main character energy. Internally, Mian is blushing hard, thinking that this divine general was specifically designed to seduce every goddess in the realm. He tries to take the snack, but his hands are trembling so hard it's actually embarrassing. Predictably, the chocolate slips right out of his shaky grip, making him feel like a total klutz in front of his crush. Yan just gives a soft smile and offers to help, which is honestly doing more damage to Mian's heart than the hunger was. As Yan helps him out, their personal space disappears, and Mian is caught in a moment of pure tension. He stammers that he's fine, but his eyes are wide with shock at the close contact. That's when he notices that Yan's synesthesia mood indicator actually turns yellow, showing a clear spike in attraction. Mian realizes that his eyes weren't lying to him before. Yan is definitely feeling the vibe, and it's making Mian's head spin. Yan eventually has to head out, leaving Rai to handle the rest of the feeding duties. Mian is left there processing the fact that the mood change happened specifically while he was in his goddess look. Internally, he scoffs, wait. Does this mean Kongshan is the one with the cross-dressing fetish? He stuffs the chocolate into his mouth, trying to ignore the fact that he's basically drooling over the divine general's aesthetic. Suddenly, the sound of the gong echoes through the air, signaling that the festival is officially live. Yan appears wearing a fierce red mask, looking like a powerful warrior who just stepped out of a myth. Mian realizes the mask is probably a major win for Yan since he can play the part without having to show his face to the massive crowd. The official shouts that the auspicious hour has arrived, and the drums start a heavy beat that vibrates through the floor. Without a word, Yan sweeps Mian off his feet, carrying him like a bride in front of everyone. The crowd absolutely loses it, screaming about how stunning the goddess looks and begging for pictures. They look so perfect together that the locals are convinced they must be high-tier professional actors brought in for the show. The ceremony continues as Mian is carefully placed down to perform the ritual kneeling. Then they are hoisted up onto the grand palanquin, beginning their slow procession through the packed streets. Mian looks out at the sea of people and realizes that while they are just actors, this tradition is the island's way of holding on to hope. He embraces his role as the symbol of the island's belief, looking every bit the part of a divine being. But the drama isn't over yet, because someone in the crowd just did a massive double-take, realizing that the gorgeous goddess is actually Mian. Just when Mian thinks he's pulling off the ultimate goddess disguise, disaster strikes. That a classmate from the crowd shouts his name and Mian realizes his cover is officially blown. Yan notices the sudden panic and asks what's up, only for Mian to reveal that his nosy old classmates from the bookstore are in the building. And Mian's just praying the parade ends before things get awkward. But Yan is already entering overprotective mode. Yan gets close, promising that no strange men will bother him on his watch. Internally, Mian rolled his eyes, thinking, "Bro, stop saying misleading stuff if you don't actually have feelings for me." Despite the mixed signals, Mian's synesthesia is working overtime, and he's low-key begging for Yan's aura to turn yellow again just to confirm the vibes. The scene shifts to South Street as the golden hour hits the festival. The parade finally wraps up, and the organizers give everyone a big thumbs up for a job well done. Yan drops the divine general mask and offers Mian a hand to help him down from the palanquin. Mian, trying to keep a shred of dignity, stares at the hand like it's a trap. He insists he can handle it himself, but Yan isn't convinced. Yan warns him to be careful as Mian starts his descent in that heavy dress. Of course, because this is a manhwa, Mian's foot immediately slips on the edge of the platform. But just as gravity prepares to end his career, a hand reaches out to save the day. Yan catches him in a full-on cinematic embrace, sending Mian's heart into a total short circuit. As they share a heavy ba-thump moment, Yan asks if he's hurt, looking way too concerned for a guy who claims he's just being a neighbor. Their friends rush over to check on the goddess, totally oblivious to the romantic tension thick enough to cut with a knife. But the drama isn't over, because Fu Wei is still lurking like a final boss, trying to get Mian's attention. He replays the ultimate wingman, pretending they don't know the guy while Yan's face turns into a block of ice. Fu Wei keeps shouting, clearly not taking the hint that he's being ghosted in real time. Fed up with the stalker vibes, Yan decides to just carry Mian away bridal style to avoid the crowd. Mian gives up and accepts the ride while Yan enlists Uncle Zhang for some crowd control. Yan's directive is simple. Keep that annoying guy away from us. Uncle Zhang is happy to help, and Mian can't help but giggle at how bossy Yan is being. Yan catches him laughing and asks what's so funny, but Mian keeps his thoughts to himself. Internally, he scoffed. "I'm definitely not telling you that your bossy energy is actually kind of hot." Mian puts on his best innocent face and tells Yan it's nothing. When Yan calls him a kid again, Mian snaps back that he's a fully grown 19-year-old. Yan just smirks, calling him a 19-year-old kid, which Mian finds totally unfair. An hour later, the festival vibes are still going strong in the lounge area. The little QQ spots Mian in his normal clothes and charges in for a hug. Mian apologizes for ignoring her earlier during the chaos, but the little angel doesn't mind at all. QQ notices Yan is missing and wonders if her dad went out for another smoke break. Grandpa joins the group, looking like a proud fanboy after the parade. He tells Mian that everyone was praising his grandson, making Mian feel like the MVP of the day. Grandpa shifts the praise to Yan, mentioning how the local girls were practically screaming because he was so handsome in his general gear. Mian reflects on how Yan has always been his rock, even agreeing to let him move in after 4 years apart without a second thought. Mian tells Grandpa he's the one who feels blessed, but the old man is busy roasting his own son's fitness levels compared to Yan. Grandpa's friend chimes in, joking that Yan's kid is better, because he had her much earlier than they did. Grandpa laughs it off, calling his own kid a torturous brat, while the room stays cozy. The group gathers around, looking like one big happy family while they wait for the next move. Yan finally shows up and offers to take QQ off Mian's hands. But the kid is zero chill and tells her dad he smells like a chimney. Yan just smiles, telling Yan it's no trouble at all to keep holding her. The night winds down with some delicious-looking BBQ on the grill. Mian tells Grandpa to take it easy on the drinks before they head out. As they start to walk, Yan suddenly stops them from going a certain way. Mian asks why, and Yan points out that the persistent classmate, Fu Wei, is still camping out like a dedicated hater. Mian is baffled, wondering if he owes the guy money or something because this level of commitment is insane. A little QQ breaks the tension by announcing she's officially starving. Yan leads them toward a secluded path to dodge the stalker, proving he's the ultimate MVP of avoiding drama. The festival chaos is finally simmering down, and Yan is still playing the protective knight while carrying Mian away from the crowds. Back at the food stalls, QQ and Mian are basically in a trance staring at a grill full of BBQ skewers. Yan checks in on his two hungry kids, asking if they're ready to finally eat. He tells them to go grab a seat while he handles the order for some grilled eggs. Mian's over here playing detective, wondering if Yan is actually sneaking off for another nicotine fix. The wait for food is agonizing, and these two are about 5 seconds away from chewing on the table. Finally, the loot arrives in triple-stack takeout containers. Mian and QQ's eyes light up like they just won the lottery. Yan drops the fried noodles on the table, and the hype is real. Mian is absolutely devouring his portion, calling it the best thing he's ever tasted. Yan has to tell them to pipe down and slow their roll before they choke on the noodles. He starts peeling a tiny egg with the precision of a high-end chef. It's a rare moment of peace for the group as they dig into their late-night feast. The secret weapon of the meal is revealed, 2 tiny quail eggs sitting on a bed of noodles. QQ isn't wasting any time showing off her expert chopstick skills. Yan takes a bite of his own, looking completely calm as usual. But wait, his mood meter just spiked to a solid 70. Mian is shook, convinced that these quail eggs are some kind of magical mood-boosting cheat code. Internally, he's taking notes, thinking quail eggs taste good, so obviously everyone is obsessed with them. QQ is already demanding more, and Yan's basically been promoted to a full-time egg peeler. Once they're full, Yan suggests a little walk through the night market to digest. They're vibing until a mysterious fortune teller blocks their path. She targets Yan immediately, asking if he wants the tea on his love life. Yan shuts it down instantly, claiming he doesn't believe in that kind of stuff. The lady isn't having it, warning him that those who don't believe in love will face the wrath of the god of love. Yan looks like he's about to file a restraining order, while Mian wonders if he's actually just anti-romance. The night finally ends, and Mian reflects on how great the day was, especially receiving a gift from Yan. He's cruising home on his scooter when the fireworks start popping off over the city. He realizes he missed the Big Beach show, but at least he's got a front row seat from the road. Suddenly, a pair of high beams starts tailing him, turning the road behind him into a blinding spotlight. Mian is totally blinded and starts low-key panicking about who's chasing him. He tries to stay steady, telling himself to ignore the car and just focus on the road. But then he hears a familiar beep and realizes it's just Yan in his BMW. Yan pulls up alongside him, making Mian wonder why he's taking this specific detour. Mian starts to get in his feelings, wondering if Yan is deliberately taking the long way just to watch the fireworks with him. The narrator drops some heavy truth about how a crush makes you climb mountains and do all kinds of stupid things. Mian is feeling himself, riding one-handed like a total rebel while leading the way home. The fireworks are pretty, but the path of a crush isn't always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you have to face the challenges alone while those feelings are still one-sided. Flash forward a few days, and Mian is getting absolutely washed in video games by a child. QQ is roasting him for being a scrub, but Mian's head just isn't in the game today. Yan carries the little champ off to bed, leaving Mian to spiral in his own thoughts. He's worried that since school starts in a month, Yan might be looking for a new employee to replace him. He's rummaging through the kitchen cabinets when Yan catches him in 4K. Mian jumps like he's been caught in a crime, stuttering that he's just looking for a cup. The tension in the kitchen is thicker than ever as they stand side by side. Yan calmly fills a cup for him, being the perfect host. Mian tries to act natural, but he's completely distracted by Yan just existing. Internally, he's short-circuiting, thinking Yan looks way too sexy just doing basic chores. He tries to take a sip to cool down, but ends up spitting it out and choking like a total klutz. Now his shirt is soaked, and he's coughing his lungs out in embarrassment. Yan immediately swoops in with a tissue to help clean up the mess. He's being super attentive, which only Mian's heart rate go into overdrive. Mian tries to say thanks, but he's basically lost the ability to speak English or any other language. Yan leans in close, and his mood meter hits that dangerous yellow 70 again, leaving Mian completely blindsided. After that high-voltage kitchen encounter, Yan tries to play it cool and suggests moving the party to living room, even though his mood meter is chilling at a spicy 70. Even Mian follows along, clutching his drink and noting that while the bookstore owner is a master of self-restraint, at least he isn't cross-dressing this time to confuse Mian's poor heart. Seeking to break the tension, Yan reaches for the remote. Mian decides to shoot his shot and challenges Yan to a video game duel, proposing a best-of-3 bet where the winner gets to ask a question. Internally, Mian is already celebrating, thinking, this old man probably doesn't even know how to hold a controller, it's free real estate. Yan simply smirks and grabs his weapon of choice. The trash-talking begins immediately as they settle into their chibi warrior stances. To fast-forward 15 minutes, and the game over screen flashes in bright yellow. Mian is absolutely devastated because he just got wrecked by a guy he thought was a gaming noob. When asked about his college major, Mian sulks and replies diplomacy, instantly regretting his bland choice of question. But the conversation takes a turn when Mian mentions Rainbow College, and Yan reveals he's actually an alumnus. Yan's jaw hits the floor as he realizes he's sitting next to his senior. It turns out Yan wasn't always just a bookstore owner. His childhood dream was to become a diplomat. He actually made it into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs after graduation, but then he walked away from it all. Internally, Yan is short-circuiting, realizing that Yan was basically part of the elite 1% who actually make it into that field. The mood gets heavy when Yan explains he was working in Africa when his sister had a catastrophic accident. Because there were no direct flights, it took him 2 agonizing days to get back home. By the time he arrived, the damage was done. His sister, QQ's mother, lost her leg and needed constant care, leaving with a brutal choice between his career and his family. He chose family stepping up to raise Q, just like his sister had once done for him. Yan realizes he totally misjudged Yan as someone lacking ambition when in reality, the man's a literal saint. Yan picks up a book, explaining that he opened the shop because reading is a low-cost, high-reward way to see the world. To him, books are the ultimate life hack for broadening horizons without leaving the island. Yan agrees, feeling a deep connection, but then his brain decides to go for the juggernaut question. He asks Yan straight up, if Q ever wants a mom, would he ever get married? The question hangs in the air, thick with Yan's hidden hopes. Yan pauses, the silence stretching out. He gives a firm nope, explaining that there's more to life than relationships, while his mood drops to a neutral 50. Yan asks if he's choosing celibacy, and Yan basically confirms it. Yan hides his face, thinking, I thought I could turn his mood pink with a little effort, but this man is playing on God mode difficulty. He physically deflates, feeling like just another face in the crowd of people who want a piece of Yan. Internally, he sighs, I'm just many, aren't I? Yan, oblivious to the heartbreak, tells Yan it's late and he should head to bed. The next day, the vibe at the bookstore shifts when a stylish woman walks in. Yan recognizes her immediately. She's the same girl who was at Yan's house before. He remembers seeing them together and feels that familiar sting of jealousy. The door clicks shut as Yan approaches. He finds Yan standing there like a statue and asks what's up. Yan is totally flustered, unable to find his words. Yan looks him dead in the eye, and Yan notices his mood has spiked to a 78. Yan panics, wondering why Yan is getting angry all of a sudden. Meanwhile, the mystery woman is beaming with a pink mood value of 80, telling Yan it's been a long time. Chibi Yan is practically foaming at the mouth, screaming internally, You're a liar, Yan. I can see the pink mood value right there. Yan ignores Yan's internal crisis and tells the woman to follow him. Yan's heart sinks, convinced she's about to confess. But Yan just tells him to go grab a mop because a customer spilled a drink. Yan heads to the staff lounge, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. He enters the room, still dazed. He finds the mop, but his ears are tuned into the conversation outside. He hears Yan ask, Do you want it? And the woman replies, yes. Yan's brain goes into full meltdown mode. He wonders what kind of exchange is happening and tries to tell himself Yan isn't like that. He peeks out the door, ready to witness the end of his world. But it turns out he was just being dramatic. Yan was literally just offering her a smoke. However, the relief is short-lived when the woman looks at Yan and asks, It's been a while. Did you miss me? Just when things were getting spicy, Yan decides to go full savage and end his arrangement with the mystery woman right then and there. Hiding behind the door, Yan is having a total internal crisis. Realizing that adults can apparently separate physical needs from emotions, something he definitely can't do since he's head over heels for the boss. Yan watches as Yan keeps it cold, explaining that he refuses to let certain partnerships extend beyond the bedroom. He tells her to hit the bricks and never come back. Internally, Yan's jaw is on the floor, thinking, well, that escalated quickly. Yan doubles down, coldly reminding the woman that they never actually had a relationship to begin with. This earns him a massive slap to the face as the woman calls him a jerk and storms off, leaving Yan completely unbothered. Feeling like he just watched something he wasn't supposed to, Yan tries to sneak away before he gets caught in 4K. He decides to bail and head home before Yan spots him lurking. After telling his grandpa he's skipping dinner to go play with the neighbor's kid, Yan heads out. On the way, he finds a pair of stray kittens and goes full cat dad mode, snapping a pic for social media. He posts the photo to Weibo with a clickbaity caption about being a dad now, which definitely gets his followers talking. He knows QQ is gonna lose her mind over how cute these little guys are. Later, at Yan's place, QQ is already hyped about the news Yan shared earlier. Yan is playing the perfect dad, handing out sodas and acting like he didn't just get slapped into next week. When Yan asks if he believes in dream interpretations, Yan just gives a stoic look and says he only believes in the good ones. He invites Yan to stay for dinner, acting like the ultimate domestic king while putting on an apron. While they wait for the food, the TV shows a news segment about Jiao Changyu, a legendary 37-year-old spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Mayan is impressed by her aura, but his heart sinks when Q casually mentions that this is the woman Yan actually likes. Mian stares at the screen, feeling like a total amateur compared to this high-powered diplomat. Mian starts spiraling, realizing he's the total opposite of this mature and sexy woman Yan supposedly admires. Yan suddenly walks in and tells them to turn the TV off, looking visibly annoyed. Mian notices the mood shift and realizes that QQ didn't just mean a celebrity crush. He starts connecting the dots, remembering that Yan and this woman were both rising stars in the diplomatic world 3 years ago. It's totally possible they had a deep history together. Yan grabs the remote and shuts the TV down, ending the awkward moment. Dinner is ready, but the vibes are definitely off as Mian decides it's time to head home. Once he's outside, Mian goes into full FBI mode, searching for the woman's profile on his phone. He finds her official bio and sees that she was a counselor in Cape Verde. That's the exact same place where Yan used to work. Mian starts wondering if Yan's no-love rule isn't just because of his sister's tragedy, because he got his heart broken by this woman. He grips his phone tight, thinking, what if someone hurt him so badly he just can't love anymore? Feeling emo, Mian posts another cryptic Weibo update about how he's no longer satisfied with yellow and wants pink. Instead, a secret code for his feelings that leaves his followers totally confused. Internally, he sighs, nobody understands my struggle. Suddenly, a loud meowing breaks his main character moment. He rushes to the bushes where the kittens are hiding. He realizes the mother cat, Hannah, hasn't come back yet. Since he has nothing better to do than overthink his love life, he decides to stay and watch over the hungry babies. He sits in the dirt, cradling one of the kittens. An hour passes and he's still there when his grandpa finds him. Grandpa is worried the kittens are starving and points out they don't have any goat milk at home. Mian suggests asking a neighbor, but their cat, Charcoal, is way too old to help. The kittens are crying for food, and the situation is looking desperate. The grandpa stops to think for a second. Suddenly, he gets a bright idea, looking very proud of himself. He mentions that their neighbor, Zhang, has plenty of milk because his dog just gave birth. They rush the kittens over to the neighbor's house in the middle of the night. And in a hilarious twist, the kittens start nursing from a very confused but patient mother dog. Mian is relieved the crisis is over and agrees with Grandpa that it's time to get some sleep. The next day, Mian shows up for work at the bookstore, looking a bit tired from all the drama. He meets a new guy named Xiao Tian, who's joining the staff. Mian introduces himself, trying to stay professional. Tian seems friendly enough as they start their shift together, but the peace doesn't last long when the door slams open with a loud bang. A girl storms in, pointing a finger at Mian and screaming, "Do you have no shame, you Mian?" The peace at the bookstore is officially cancelled when a girl named Anna Chen storms in looking for smoke. She immediately starts blasting Yu Mian, accusing him of being a disgusting pest for throwing himself at a guy named Fu Wei. Mian isn't about to be a doormat and asks how she's so sure about Fu Wei's orientation, which almost earns him a slap. Luckily, Fu Wei himself appears to drag his obsessive fan away, telling her straight up that his rejection has nothing to do with Mian, he just doesn't like her. Anna isn't buying it and screams that it's all Mian's fault, leaving our protagonist looking totally exhausted. Looking at the messy pair, Mian realizes that even with his synesthesia, human drama is way too complicated to decode. Fu Wei looks at him with guilt, but Mian is already over it. Internally, he groaned, "God, why are people like this?" He tells them to get out if they aren't actually buying books, but Anna is committed to being the villain of the day. She starts throwing around insults and making a scene, clearly having zero shame. She even uses a slur, making Mian realize that despite the vibes on the island being chill, homophobia is still very much a thing. He reflects on how society labels people like him as perverts for simply existing. It's one thing when strangers are trash, but it's a total soul crusher when that hate comes from friends or family. After this encounter, Mian decides he's done playing nice. He looks Anna dead in the eye and asks if she even has the right to act this way, when she's just a one-sided crush with no claim on Fu Wei. That truth bomb sends her into a blind rage, and she swings for a slap. Before she can connect, a hand catches her wrist midair. It's the boss man, Yan Kongshan, looking absolutely done with the nonsense. He shuts her down immediately, reminding her this is a bookstore, not a boxing ring, and tells her to beat it. Anna tries one last desperate move, outing Mian as a pervert who likes boys to his boss to get him fired. Fu Wei finally grows a spine and drags her out before she can do more damage. Once the dust settles, Yan leads Mian to the back office. Yes, Yan looks frustrated, telling Mian he should have mentioned that his crush was the source of all this trouble. And as Mian realizes Yan has completely misunderstood the situation, he clarifies that Fu Wei was just a friend he tried to date once, but it failed miserably and ruined his reputation. Because of that one attempt, everyone back then labeled him a weirdo. Feeling like a burden, Mian offers to stop coming in, assuming the new staff member Xiao Tian can just take over. Internally, his heart was sinking as he thought, well, it was fun while it lasted, but Yan isn't having any of that self-pity. He tells Mian he didn't cause any trouble and offers him a few days off just to avoid the drama-seeking duo. Mayan is blindsided by the kindness, noticing Yan's mood colors shift to something much calmer. Yan then gives him a gentle head pat, treating him with the respect he deserves. Left alone in the locker room, Mian's heart starts doing gymnastics. He covers his face, finally admitting the truth to himself. He really likes this man. Later, Mian is back to kitten-sitting duty with QQ. He chats with some local grandpas about a missing cat named Hannah, but nobody has seen her. The old-timers warn him that strays are more erratic than the weather, which doesn't help his anxiety. One of them mentions that Mian's mom wants him to Rainbow Town tomorrow. While walking QQ home, Yan mentions he's heading to the town hospital for the girls' monthly therapy session. Mian seizes the chance to hitch a ride, and Yan is happy to have the company. They agree to meet up in the morning, with Mian waving them goodbye. The next day, they arrive at a psychiatric hospital that specializes in therapy for children. Yan explains that QQ has been in a program for a year to help her regulate her emotions and fit in with her peers. While QQ tries to get Mian to play a game, Mian spots a familiar face in the lobby. It's the diplomat, Jiao Changju, the woman from Yan's past. The two former flames come face to face, and Changju reveals she's just there for some prescription sleeping pills due to work stress. Yan keeps it professional, congratulating her on a recent promotion. Mian watches closely, seeing Yan's mood value stay neutral, which gives him a little hope until Changju turns to Mian and asks the ultimate question. Are you married? The tension at the hospital reaches a boiling point as Yan Kongshan gives a stone-cold rejection to his former flame's meddling. Jiao Changju tries to play the concerned friend card, insisting that Yan needs to get married because his daughter needs a mother figure in her life. Yan isn't buying what she's selling for a second, telling her straight up that she doesn't need to worry about his family dynamic. Realizing she's hit a brick wall, she makes a quick exit, claiming her driver is waiting outside. Mayan is absolutely floored by the exchange, feeling like he just survived a front-row seat to a messy reality TV reunion. Yan keeps it professional, ignoring the drama to focus on getting the kid to her therapy appointment. While they wait in the hall, Mian can't help but wonder if Yan's cynicism toward love is all because of his history with Jiao. Yan looks so drained that Mian actually asks if he's fallen asleep standing up. Yan clarifies the situation, explaining that Jiao was his mentor and guide, but in the end, he was nothing more than a temporary passerby in her life. Mian is left blinking in confusion, trying to process what that cryptic passerby comment actually means. Yan drops some heavy truth, stating that when reality and love clash, love is usually the first thing to get dumped. Internally, Mian sighed, I guess I'm an idiot too, because if I had the choice, I wouldn't want to fall this deep for the first time either. Later that night, Yan drives Mian over to his mother's house but stays in the car. Before Mian hops out, Yan gives him a soft head pat, telling him he'll wait right there with QQ. Mian's mom greets him at the door, acting like everything is totally normal. It turns out she dragged him on a 4-hour round trip, just to hand him a new blanket for college. Internally, Mian scoffed. Did she really summon me here for a duvet cover? She tries to make small talk, asking if he's doing okay. But Mian sensed the guilt radiating off her. He realizes the blanket is likely just a peace offering to try and patch up their awkward relationship. Mian keeps it polite, assuring her that life on the island is great, and his grandpa is taking excellent care of him. She tries to convince him to stay for a roast duck dinner, but Mian shuts it down, mentioning his friend is waiting outside. Her face drops faster than a bad stock price when she realizes he's not sticking around. Mian gives her a hug, genuinely thanking her for the freedom to stay with his grandpa. She tells him the door is always open, trying to reclaim some maternal points. Mian gives a final wave, putting another chapter of family drama behind him. As they drive back, the atmosphere in the car is suffocatingly quiet. Yan finally breaks the silence, claiming he's exhausted and plans to turn in early tonight. Mian takes the hint, assuming the run-in with the ex-girlfriend completely ruined Yan's mood, and he wants to be alone. Feeling rejected and moody, Mian heads over to Sunrise Place instead of going home. Sunri is caught off guard when Mian shows up unannounced. She's just lounging in bed when she sees the look of despair on his face. Mian looks like about to short-circuit and immediately asks if she has any alcohol. He grabs a bottle of her dad's plum wine, not caring that it's high proof as long as it does the job. He starts chugging the stuff like it's a sports drink, sending Sunrui into a total panic. She manages to snatch the bottle away, demanding to know what happened to make him this reckless. She tries to deflect by talking about her own successful love life, hoping to cheer him up. But Mian just collapses into his feelings, announcing that his heart is officially broken. When she asks who the lucky guy is, Mian finally says the name, Kongshan. The room goes silent as Sunray stares at him like he's grown a second head. It finally clicks for her that Mian is actually into guys, which catches her completely off guard. Mian admits the truth, but sobs that it doesn't matter because Yan doesn't like him back. Sunri tries to tell him there are plenty of fish in the sea, but Mian isn't looking for a school of fish. He's fully drunk and fully emotional, crying out that he only wants Yan and no one else. Fast forward to later that night, and Yan's doorbell is being rung with the intensity of a fire alarm. Someone is spamming the button like a toddler on a sugar high. Yan opens the door to find a completely wasted Mian standing there. Mian giggles at first, but it quickly turns into a sobbing mess as he asks Yan why he doesn't like him. Yan catches him before he hits the floor, asking exactly how much plum wine he managed to put away. Mian holds up a finger, claiming he only had a little, in a very unconvincing chibi form. When he asks who gave him the booze, Mian snitches on Sunroy without a second thought. Yan is half annoyed and half amused at how obediently Mian drank whatever was put in front of him. He starts carrying Mian toward the kitchen to get him some water. But Mian turns to a human backpack, clinging to Yan's neck and refusing to let go. He begs Yan not to leave him, his drunk brain spiraling into total abandonment mode. Yan tries to be adult in the room, telling him to be good and lie down on the sofa. Mian snaps back that he doesn't want to be good anymore. He starts rambling about how he hates school because everyone there hates him. He specifically mentions Fu Wei, crying about how the guy used to turn pink around him until Mian revealed his secret now. He's just left wondering why everyone turns their back on him. Things are getting messy on Green Plum Island as our resident synthetic disaster, Mian, finally reaches his breaking point. After a night of heavy drinking, Mian is barely holding it together when Yan Kongshan tries to walk away, leaving him feeling completely abandoned. Yan isn't actually ditching him though. He's just grabbing a glass of water to deal with the drunken mess in his living room. He forces Mian to take a sip, hoping some hydration will bring the kid back to reality. Internally, a tiny, chibi version of Mian is short-circuiting, wondering what kind of mystery potion he's being served. He chugs it down like a champ, only to immediately complain that it tastes absolutely disgusting, while Yan deadpans that it's literally just water. Mian isn't buying it, pointing an accusatory finger and screaming that Yan is trying to poison him. Yan's face says it all, he is officially too old for this level of drama. Mian's synesthesia is haywire, and he starts demanding to know why Yan isn't turning pink, basically begging for a visual sign of affection. He gets bold and physically clings to Yan, who tries to gently push the drunk student off before things get even weirder. It turns into a chaotic tickle fight that Mian finds way too amusing for someone in the middle of a breakdown. However, the fun ends instantly when a glass hits the floor and shatters into a million pieces. Yan pins Mian to the ground to keep him from moving into the shards, demanding to know if he got dumped or if there's some other reason he's trying to set a world record for liver failure. Mian finally lets it all out, touching Yan's face and confessing his feelings with a direct "I like you." Yan tries to give him an out, suggesting he's just mistaking him for someone else, but Mian is stubborn. He insists that there is no way he'd confuse Yan's face or voice with anyone else's. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as Yan looks down at the boy who just blew up their entire dynamic. The next morning, the hangover of doom arrives right on schedule. Mian wakes up with a massive headache and the horrifying realization that his memories are starting to flood back. He remembers the poison comment and, more importantly, the fact that he confessed his undying love. Internally, he's screaming, "Why am I like this?" as he buries his face in his pillow, wishing the earth would just swallow him whole. He eventually creeps out of bed and finds Yan crashed out on the sofa, looking surprisingly peaceful for someone who dealt with a hurricane in human form. That's when Mian notices Yan's hand is heavily bandaged, and he realizes it was fine when they first arrived home. He puts two and two together and feels a wave of guilt, realizing Yan got sliced up while cleaning up the glass Mian broke. Suddenly, Yan's eyes flutter open, catching Mian mid-stare. He greets Mian with a calm good morning, as if his world didn't just get rocked by a drunken confession hours ago. Mian immediately goes into damage control mode, apologizing for being a total liability the night before. Yan looks him dead in the eye and asks the ultimate question. "Do you remember what you said?" To Mian's internal monologue is basically a siren blaring, "Abort mission," as he realizes that admitting the truth means guaranteed rejection and permanent awkwardness. He chooses the coward's way out, laughing it off and claiming he was so wasted he doesn't remember a single word. He's desperately praying that Yan will just drop the subject, especially the "I like you" part. Yan actually plays along, telling Mian that he definitely mistook him for someone else, which leaves Mian feeling a weird mix of relief and total annoyance. Yan adds that while Mian didn't do anything stupid, he did hallucinate that the water was poison. As Yan gets up to tidy the room, Mian can't take his eyes off that bandage. He finally asks what happened to Yan's hand, hoping for some honesty. Yan lies through his teeth, claiming he just heard it while picking up some glass. But Mian knows that's a total lie. Nobody cuts their palm like that just picking up shards. Mian tries to insist on helping, but Yan tells him to just go home, shower, and take the day off. On his way home, Mian's phone pings with a text from his friend Sunrui, who is ready to be the ultimate wingman for Mian's pursuit of Yan. Internally, Mian groans. I should have kept my mouth shut, realizing that having Sunrui help is probably the last thing his love life needs. To make matters worse, the local news announces a code black. A massive typhoon is heading straight for the island. Back at the house, Yan's daughter, Wan Q, is hyped because a storm means no school and more video games. She's ready for an all-nighter, but Yan isn't having any of it. He scoops her up, playing the strict dad card and telling her it's past her bedtime. Yan watches them, feeling like an outsider looking into a perfect little family unit. He realizes that with Typhoon coming, he might actually have an excuse to stay a bit longer. Later that night, Mian spots Yan standing outside alone. Yet Yan is smoking a cigarette, looking moody and cinematic in the dark. Mian, never having smoked before, curiously asks what it's like. Yan tells him it tastes like absolutely nothing, prompting Mian to ask if Yan can teach him how to do it. Yan immediately shuts him down, telling him he's way too young for that kind of habit. Mian gets defensive, insisting he knows plenty of things, but Yan just repeats the too young line like a broken record. That phrase haunts Mian as he tries to sleep later, the words echoing in his head as a metaphor for why Yan won't take his feelings seriously. He realizes Yan is intentionally acting like the confession never happened to protect their friendship. Under his blankets, Mian is left with the crushing realization that being too young is just a polite way of saying he's already been rejected. Mian is currently going through it, hiding under his covers and fuming about how being 18 apparently makes his feelings invalid in the eyes of his crush. He's realized that a silent rejection is actually way more brutal than a direct no, because he never even had to state his case properly. Internally, he groaned, "At least let me get the words out before you shut me down for being a kid." Cut to the bookstore, where Sun-Rui decides to crash Mian's shift with some major main character energy. She's there to see her little Wen, though Wen-Ying isn't exactly thrilled about the cheesy nickname. Sun-Rui is laying the charm on thick, clearly shooting her shot while the boys try to stay professional behind the counter. Internally, Mian wondered if Wen-Ying was actually feeling the vibe or if Sun-Rui was just caught in a delusion. Checking Wen-Ying's mood value, which is a neutral white, Mian figures his friend's radar might be totally off. Sun-Rui pivots to a group activity, suggesting a hiking trip for the upcoming weekend to shake things up. Wen-Ying tries to dodge the invite, but Mian cuts him off with a loud, strategic cuff. He's desperate for a distraction from his own romantic disaster and immediately signs them both up. Since the bookstore roster shows they're both free on Saturday, the plan is officially locked in. Mian later worries about Wan-Q being left home alone while the adults are out adventuring. He brings it up to Yan Kongshan, suggesting they bring the kid along for the climb since the mountain is only 200 meters high. Yan agrees to the plan, even promising to carry her on his back if her legs give out on the way up. Mian flashes a rare, genuine smile, feeling a bit better about getting some quality time with the family. Internally, he hoped that before summer ends and he leaves for college, he'd find one more chance to properly confess. Saturday arrives at Mount Yuanyang, a scenic spot famous for its effectiveness in answering prayers for love and marriage. Sun-Rui is already busy trying to sell Wen-Ying on the perks of marrying into her family, specifically the free fruit for life package. Wan-Q, acting as the ultimate wingman, asks why that's such a big deal. She's impressed by the fruit savings logic, while Mian just watches the chaotic flirting unfold. As they cross a suspension bridge, Wan-Q notices Sun-Rai's obvious crush and calls Mian out for being slow on the uptake. She tells him that if Wen-Ying actually hated the girl, he wouldn't have bothered coming along today. Suddenly, the bridge gets dangerously crowded, and a rude passerby starts yelling for people to stop hogging the road. That's when the literal death flags appear as the support rope begins to fray and loosen. Mian tries to reassure a terrified Wan-Q, who admits she doesn't know how to swim. Before he can finish his sentence, the rope snaps with a violent crack. Chaos erupts as the entire bridge collapses, sending everyone screaming into the freezing water below. People are flailing and shouting for help in the terrifying aftermath of the plunge. Mian surfaces and immediately panics, screaming Wan-Q's name into the void. The group realizes the little girl is missing, and Wen-Ying dives back in to search the depths. Mian follows suit, swimming underwater in a desperate, lung-bursting bid to find her. Finally, they pull her to the shore, but the situation is looking grim. Wan-Q is laid out on the gravel, pale and completely unresponsive. Mian checks for a pulse and feels his world stop when he realizes there's no heartbeat. Sun-Rui takes charge, revealing she used to be a lifeguard, and starts performing CPR while Mian calls the emergency services. After a few tense moments that feel like hours, Wan-Q finally coughs up water and wakes up. The ambulance arrives and rushes her to the hospital, where she's placed in the unit for observation. Wen-Ying heads home to grab clean clothes, leaving a guilt-ridden Mian to keep watch by the bed. Mian is a total wreck, barely able to hold it together as he thanks God she's still breathing. When Wan-Q wakes up, she notices his distress and asks if he's now too scared to take her out again. Mian is drowning in guilt, convinced that no parent, especially Yan Kongshan, should ever trust him again. Wan-Q tells him to stop being dramatic, insisting that her disability doesn't define her, and she doesn't blame him for the accident. She then asks about his own condition, referring to the secret he mentioned about falling out of a tree. Mian explains that the doctors said his synesthesia might never get better. Wan-Q hilariously roasts him, saying that while she lost a leg, he clearly lost his mind. The lighthearted moment is cut short when Yan Kongshan finally arrives at the hospital, looking completely blindsided. He immediately rushes to the bedside to check on his daughter's condition. He checks her forehead and asks if anything else feels weird, his voice tight with worry. He gives her a gentle kiss, relieved that his little girl is safe and sound. Wan-Q tries to act tough, giving a little wink to show she's okay. Meanwhile, Mian is standing in the corner, internally screaming and wondering if Yan is about to absolutely lay into him for the disaster. Mian and Yan are finally having a moment, locked in a tight hospital hug that feels like a total breakthrough. But the romantic vibes are immediately killed when they realize they aren't alone. A friend bursts into the room, catching them red-handed and looking absolutely stunned. Yan quickly pulls away, trying to act like he wasn't just having a main character moment. The friend awkwardly hands over the paperwork, explaining that Q is ready to be transferred to the children's ward. To keep things professional, Yan pulls out his phone and settles the hospital bills via QR code right then there. And Mian says a sweet goodbye to little Q, promising her he'll be back the very next day. He heads for the elevator, leaving Yan behind to take care of his daughter. There's a heavy silence as the two men lock eyes one last time before the doors start to slide shut. Yan looks completely unreadable, leaving Mian to wonder if they're actually cool or if things just got weirder. Internally, Mian was spiraling, thinking his mood is still at rock bottom, and I'm not seeing a single spark of pink chemistry. To the next morning, Mian hops on his pink scooter, determined to play the role of the supportive friend. While cruising down the street, he suddenly spots a familiar face in the crowd. It's Ding Baizhu. He's so blindsided by seeing the guy near the hospital that he completely loses focus on the road. By the time he realizes he's heading straight for a wall, it's a total physics has left the chat moment. He wipes out hard, hitting the pavement with a nasty thump that definitely left a mark. He ends up with a gnarly graze on his arm, but he tries to play it cool, hoping his grandpa won't notice the road rash. To the real issue is Ding Baizu's presence. Mian finds it super sketchy that the guy is lurking around after Q's accident. He wonders if the man has no shame and is still trying to force a meeting with the kid. Mian finally makes it into the hospital ward, trying to hide his injury. Q is hyped to see him, looking much better as she plays with a Rubik's Cube. She practically bounces off the bed to greet her favorite visitor. Mian gives her a head pat, but the physical struggle is real. Yan's dad senses tingle immediately, and he calls Mian out on his suspicious behavior, asking if he fell. Mian tries to wave it off, but showing off a bloody arm is a major fail. Q looks worried, but Mian insists he's totally fine. Yan isn't buying the tough guy act for a second and drags him away to get patched up properly. Yan starts cleaning the wound, and let's just say his bedside manner is a bit aggressive. He scolds Mian for being so careless, sounding more like an annoyed parent than a crush. When Mian mentions he saw Ding Baizu, Yan's hand slips, and he applies way too much pressure to the graze. Mian lets out a soul-piercing scream as the antiseptic hits. Yan immediately feels bad and offers to let Mian finish the job himself. Internally, Mian was crying. I should have just kept my mouth shut and suffered in silence. They start discussing the Ding Baizu situation, and Mian suggests that maybe Q should just face her bio dad and tell him off. The atmosphere gets ice cold as they sit on the bench together. Mian argues that Q is a smart kid and could handle telling Guy to beat it. But Yan shuts him down instantly, reminding him that she's literally 5 years old. This hits a massive nerve for Mian, who feels like Yan is constantly using age as an excuse to dismiss him too. He asks Yan to at least give it a shot, but the wall is already back up. Yan tells him it's a family matter he'll handle alone, basically putting Mian back in the just a kid zone. Feeling totally rejected, Mian hands back the medical supplies. He's done with the emotional roller coaster and announces he's heading home. He walks away from the hospital feeling like he just took a massive L in the romance department. Later, he vents his frustrations on Weibo, complaining about how much it sucks when your crush keeps bringing up the age gap. A few days pass, and Mian officially goes into ghost mode, ignoring Yan completely. His grandpa eventually notices the heavy emo vibes and sits him down for a heart-to-heart. The grandpa explains that getting tangled in other people's family drama is a recipe for disaster. Mian tries to defend himself, saying he just wanted to help, but he's clearly second-guessing everything. The grandpa gives him a comforting shoulder pat, acting as the voice of reason. He tells Mian that timing and empathy are key when giving advice, especially when someone is already stressed. Mian realizes that being an adult and a decent person is a lot harder than the movies make it look. To clear his head, he goes for a night run, trying to sweat out his frustration. He stops to catch his breath outside, but things go sideways when he fumbles his keys. As he goes to pick them up, someone calls his name out of the darkness. It's Fu Wei, the guy who basically ruined his high school life, and Mian is instantly on edge. Fu Wei swears he's not there to cause trouble, and just wants to say his piece. He starts by apologizing for Anna's toxic behavior at the bookstore. He even has the audacity to ask Mian to pass an apology to Yan. Mian is totally unimpressed, wondering if that's really the only reason he showed up. But then Fu Wei drops the bombshell, admitting he was the one who leaked Mian's secret back in high school. He looks Mian in the eye and begs for forgiveness, but some things are way too messy to fix with a simple sorry. Mian isn't playing around today. When his high school bully Fu Wei crawls back, begging for forgiveness, Mian hits him with the coldest, then what, vibe ever. Fu Wei has the absolute audacity to ask for a total reset, hoping they can just start over like the past few years didn't happen. Mian shuts that down immediately, explaining he only entertained the idea of a relationship because he thought Fu Wei actually liked him, but clearly the whole thing was just a massive misunderstanding. They've both said their piece, and Mayan is officially over the drama. He drops the mic and declares they are done for good. Fu Wei isn't taking the hint, though, and tries to pull the best friend card while grabbing Mian's hand in a desperate attempt to stay in his life. Mayan just flashes a polite, icy smile and confirms that a friendship is never going to happen. He uses some sudden force to yank his arm back, wanting nothing to do with this guy's physical contact. Internally, he scoffed. Read the room, buddy. Mian tells him he's forgiven but needs to stop showing up because he doesn't want his family seeing him holding hands with a guy. Then Mian asks the real question. How did this stalker even find his secret island getaway? Fu Wei claims he didn't hire a private investigator, but that's almost worse. He just tracked Mian down through social media posts and bookstore photos. Mian is instantly creeped out that his entire life was being monitored through a screen. Internally, he felt a chill thinking, I moved online to escape these people and I'm still trapped. He tells Fu Wei to just stop it. Fu Wei starts shouting that it's not like that, getting way too defensive for someone caught in 4K. He insists he isn't stalking, just that he was desperate to talk. Since Mian blocked his number, Fu Wei felt he had no other choice, but Mian is way more concerned with why this guy won't stop touching him. He demands that Fu Wei keep his hands to himself once and for all. Suddenly, a wild Yan Kongshan appears at the gate, noting that this is the third or fourth time he's caught this creep lurking around. Yan puts on the protective big brother energy and warns Fu Wei not to let there be a fourth time if he knows what's good for him. Then Fu Wei, sensing the tension, starts to ask if Yan is the guy Mian actually likes. Mian short-circuits and immediately covers the guy's mouth, threatening to expose Fu Wei's dad's secret mistress to his mom if he says one more word. He tells him he'll let go only if Fu Wei promises to keep his mouth shut. Internally, Mian realizes that secrets never stay buried, and honestly, he's tired of hiding. He forces Fu Wei to promise to back off, and the bully finally caves. Mian gives him one last warning to never come back unless he wants things to get ugly. Fu Wei looks absolutely defeated as he realizes his chances are officially zero. He finally walks away, leaving Mian and Yan alone in the quiet night. Yan is actually impressed, admitting he didn't know Mian could be so cool when he's angry. He gives Mian a rare, genuine smile, which completely resets Mian's mood. Yan praises him for handling the bad guy all by himself like a champ. Mian tries to play it humble, saying he didn't really kick the guy out. He claims he just gave him a little push while picking up his dropped keychain. Yan then gets serious, asking if Mian is still mad at him for their previous fight. Mian is relieved the silent war is over and realizes how much he missed their interactions. Yan apologizes for being too harsh the other day, and Mian admits he was in the wrong too. Yan reaches out and touches Mian's wrist, sending a rush of warmth through the younger boy. Mian starts blushing like crazy, barely able to get a word out. Yan eventually lets go, breaking the spell. He gives Mian a gentle head pat and tells him to head to bed. As Yan turns to head home, Mian realizes this is his moment. He stops, Yan in his tracks, his heart doing backflips as he wonders if he's really about to do this. Yan is confused, but Mian insists he has something important to ask. He brings up the night he called out Yan's name in his sleep, deciding to stop holding back. Mian explains that he didn't stop Fu Wei out of fear, but because he wanted Yan to hear the truth from him first. He admits that his social media posts were all about one person. He describes falling for someone 9 years older who owns a bookstore and has a daughter essentially calling Yan out in 4K. Finally, Mian drops the bomb. I like you, Yan Kongshan. Yan doesn't look happy, he just lets out a long, heavy sigh. Mian's heart sinks as he realizes Yan probably knew this whole time. Yan tells him straight up that he's just too young. He claims Mian is too inexperienced to know the difference between love and a passing crush, and adds that he doesn't believe in love anyway. Yan lets go of Mian's hand, delivering the ultimate rejection by saying he's just not worth it. Sad. Mian is officially down bad, telling that even if he's been rejected, he's going to keep simping until his heart finally gives up. Yan, acting like a total ice king, just walks away, claiming he doesn't have the right to stop Mian from wasting his time. But Mian isn't done and asks a high-risk question. If Yan ever puts that wind chime back up, can Mian be the one to take it down? Yan stops dead in his tracks, looking like he literally can't believe the audacity of this kid. Mian immediately realizes he might have overstepped, looking absolutely terrified as the silence stretches on. Yan turns around with a look that could kill, demanding Mian repeat himself, while the poor boy wonders why the vibe just turned toxic. Yan snaps that Mian can try, but if he goes down that road, he's no different from all the other people just looking for a quick hookup. Internally, Mian short-circuits, realizing that friends with benefits means losing all the soft head pats and late-night walks that actually made him feel special. It's a total lose-lose situation, and Yan doubles down by telling him to stay away from the bookstore and find some actual friends his own age. Mian tries to negotiate, asking if he can at least still visit occasionally. Yan just stares at him with an expressionless face that says more than words ever could. The final blow lands when Yan hits him with a cold no, leaving Mian standing alone in the dark. Mian collapses into a ball of heartbreak, officially deciding that he's absolutely done with the whole love thing because it's clearly not for him. Later, Mian meets up with Esti Sunrui, who is shocked to hear he's been completely ghosted by the bookstore owner. She tells him straight up that if he's just the kid next door to Yen, he needs to stop obsessing and move on. When Mian looks like his soul has left his body, she asks if he knows the legendary fastest way to cure a broken heart. Her solution: just find a new guy to obsess over, because there are plenty of other fish in the sea. Mian tries to pivot the conversation to her own love life, asking how things are going with Wen Ying. Sun re-enters girl boss mode, bragging that she's never lost a game of hearts in her life. Apparently, Wen Ying caught feelings after she performed CPR on Wan Qiu, and now they're officially an item. The Mayan is confused when she says she's literally counting down the days. When she clarifies she's counting down to their first night together, Mian nearly chokes on his drink, internally praying for Wen Ying's survival. Sun Rui decides it's time to play matchmaker and tells Mian to check his friend requests for a guy named Lu Feilang. She describes him as a golden retriever type with top-tier skills, then pivots to inviting Mian to a volunteer event at an orchard. Mian agrees, and Sun Rui gives him a playful shove before heading off to meet her man. Left alone, Mian looks like a shell of a human, clearly still hung up on the man who banned him from his sight. But he finally hits accept on the friend request from the new guy, Luo Feilang. The weekend arrives, and Mian shows up at the orchard only to realize it's a Sunshine Kids event, which is Wan Qiu's kindergarten. He realizes he's been set up and confronts Sun Rui about why she didn't mention this was Yan's daughter's school. He's worried the encounter is going to be a massive cringe fest since he was told to stay away. Sun Rui just offers some half-hearted sympathy, while Mian realizes she's probably enjoying the drama. Suddenly, a voice calls out for Sun Rui from across the orchard. Mian turns around, expecting the worst. Instead, he's greeted by Luo Feilang, who flashes a blinding smile and introduces himself. Mian immediately clocks the setup, realizing Sun Rui didn't just invite him to volunteer, she brought him a date. That Sun Rui does the introductions and then quickly ditches them, claiming she has work to do. Luo Feilang is a total smooth operator, leading Mian away to get started on the event tasks. As they grab their clipboards, Luo mentions that Sun Rui told him all about Mian. He gives a playful wink and says she described Mian as cute, which makes Mian want to crawl into a hole. They start walking through the trees, with Lu clearly trying to build some chemistry. By 9:30 a.m., the parents start rolling in and Mian is on high alert. He hears a familiar voice complaining about someone not wanting to get out of bed. It's Yan Kongshan, looking effortlessly handsome in casual gear, walking in with Wan Qiu. So the little girl spots Mian immediately and sprints over, shouting his name. She tackles him with a hug, complaining that she missed him and wondering why he hasn't visited the hospital. So Mian gives her a head pat, making up an excuse about letting her rest so he doesn't have to admit her dad banned him. Wan Qiu is already back to 100% energy, begging Mian to go peach picking with her. The awkwardness reaches a fever pitch when Yan has to sign the attendance sheet held by Luo Feilang. Luo is perfectly polite, but the tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a knife. Luo notices Yan's rare surname and introduces himself, flashing that golden retriever energy that Yan definitely doesn't appreciate. Yan looks like he's calculating how to get Mian away from this new guy as fast as possible. Luo waves them off, promising to catch up later while Mian looks like he's being led to his execution. Wan Qiu points out a specific peach that looks perfect, ignoring the adult drama happening over her head. Mian lifts her up so she can reach the fruit, looking like the perfect babysitter. Yan watches them holding the basket and trying to maintain his cool dad exterior. Internally, Mian can't help but think that they look exactly like a happy family together. They move to another tree, but the peace is short-lived. Luo Feilang suddenly appears out of nowhere, calling out their names and ruining the vibe. Mian wonders if the guy has some kind of playboy radar to find them in such a massive orchard. Luo comes charging in, determined to be helpful. He picks a peach and offers it to Wan Qiu with a charming smile. But Wan Qiu isn't impressed, bluntly telling him it's not the one she wanted. Luo is momentarily stunned, realizing that winning over the kid is going to be harder than he thought. In a bold move that leaves everyone speechless, Luo turns to Yan and asks if the older man can give him a boost so he can reach the higher peaches. Mian notices the resident playboy Luo is finally making his move. Luo offers Mian a boost to reach a high-hanging peach, and Mian figures he might as well get fruit. But Luo can't keep it professional, making creepy comments about how small Mian's waist is while lifting him up. Internally, Mian is cringing and immediately slaps Luo's hands away the second his feet hit the dirt. Meanwhile, Yan Kongshan is watching the whole interaction with a face so gloomy it could start a thunderstorm. Mian is definitely feeling the heat from Yan's death stare and tries to focus back on the trees. He attempts to reach for another peach on his own, but suddenly, A pair of hands much larger and firmer than the playboy's grab his waist. It's Yan, stepping in to show Luo how a real boost is done. Mian successfully snags the peach, feeling a bit more secure with a familiar pair of hands holding him. Yan holds him steady as he comes down, but Mian's clumsy feet to slip on the grass. Yan catches him instantly, their faces inches apart, leaving Mian blushing like a tomato while he stammers that he's totally fine. Little Wankyu is thrilled to finally get the peach she wanted. Mian hands it over, happy to be the hero for the kid and escape the awkward tension for a second. But the peace doesn't last long because Luo is still lurking, asking Mian if Yan is the guy he's actually crushing on. Lu thinks he's cracked the code, even going as far as to ask if Yan is the one Mian wants to sleep with. Mian shuts that down fast, telling Luo to stop wasting his time, because Yan is straight and definitely won't be hitting the sheets with him. To really drive the point home, Mian tells the playboy that his member will shrink if he keeps lying about his intentions. An hour later, Mian heads to the washroom area to clean up, leaving Wankyu to wait for a moment. Lu follows him like a lost puppy, trying to sell his skills, and suggesting they start with some kissing. Mian is not in the mood and tries to push him off, but the tension is broken when the door is slammed open. Yet Yan appears looking like he's ready to commit a crime, scaring Luo off immediately. Mian is left totally confused by Yan's sudden rage, wondering if the man just ran out of toilet paper or something. Back at home, Mian finds his keys on the table, feeling absolutely drained from all the orchard drama. Suddenly, the power cuts out, and he's left in the dark wondering what to do. He decides to swallow his pride and knocks on Yan's door for help. He explains that his fuse broke again and asks if the bookstore owner can come fix it. Yan agrees to help, heading inside to grab his tools while Mian waits, feeling a bit awkward about the whole situation. As they walk back to Mian's place, Mian learns Wankyu is already asleep, making him jealous of how easy kids have it compared to his chaotic life. They get to the kitchen and Yan starts working on the appliances. With a quick flick of a switch, the light over the stove hums back to life. Mian gives him a genuine thanks, but Yan just stares at him with an unreadable, cold expression. Mian starts checking his clothes, worried his zipper is down or his shirt is inside out because of the intense gaze. Yan finally breaks the silence, asking if Luo Feilang is a friend of his. Then he drops a bombshell. Does he like guys too? Mian is blindsided, wondering if Yan is actually asking because Ace interested in the playboy. He's just relieved Yan's mood meter hasn't turned yellow yet. But then Yan clarifies he heard their whole conversation earlier and is not happy about the friends with benefits talk. Mian tries to ignore the tension by stuffing his face with noodles, but he ends up choking when Yan starts lecturing him. Yan hands him a glass of water, telling him to be careful. While Mian realizes he's been caught in 4K, Yan gets high and mighty, claiming he told Mian to make new friends, not hookups. Mian tries to explain himself, but Yan cuts him off, saying he's too young to know what he wants. Internally, Mian is short-circuiting at the logic. Yan rejected him, but now he's acting like his guardian. He asks Yan exactly how old he needs to be to have an opinion. Mian scoffs at the blatant double standards. Yan's anger meter spikes to 80, looking so heated that Mian wonders if he's about to get hit. Then Mian decides to go for the jugular, pointing out that Yan is only cynical about love because his ex dumped him. He asks why he can't have a casual partner if Yan won't take him seriously. Yan snaps, closing the distance and demanding to know if Mian is really going to sleep with someone else just because of a rejection. Yan Kongshan is officially entering his possessive era, catching feelings he refused to admit earlier. He's losing it over the fact that Mian wants to find someone else to practice with just because he got rejected. He hits Mian with a sarcastic ha that screams he's absolutely not in his right mind. He looms over the poor kid, ready to drop a challenge that's going to change everything. Yan decides he's going to put up a wind chime tonight, and if Mian takes it down, the game is on. He basically asks why Mian would even bother with other guys when he can just try it with him. Internally, Mian is trying to rationalize the situation, thinking there's no love in Yan's eyes and he's just being a practical teacher. He's worried about being treated like one of Yan's past flings, especially since he's been ignored lately. He gets bold and asks if Yan is even a good kisser, but Yan shuts that down fast, claiming his skills are top tier. Mian decides to stop overthinking and reap the benefits of this lesson just this once. Yan keeps his cool and tells him to suit himself. They agree to meet up tonight, leaving Mian in a complete daze. His brain is officially short-circuiting as he starts daydreaming about the upcoming encounter. He sits there looking like a confused potato, trying to process his life choices. Meanwhile, he sends a red packet to Sunri, who is absolutely blindsided by Mian's sudden game. Rui can't believe Mian is actually out here pulling guys like a pro. Night falls and Mian is leaning over the balcony, waiting for the signal like a protagonist in a romance novel. He catches Yan in the act of hanging the chime outside the door. Yan hesitates for a second, but the bait is officially set. He heads back inside, leaving the door unlocked for his visitor. The chime hangs there, looking aesthetic while holding the weight of Mian's future regrets. Mian wastes no time taking it down and heading over to Yan's place to collect his prize. He knocks and finds Yan looking surprisingly chill, with his mood value showing he's not even mad anymore. Mian tries to act natural by asking for a Sprite to calm his nerves. Yan gives him one last chance to back out, asking if he's really sure about this. Mian confirms he's ready to start the lesson for real. Yan closes the distance immediately, telling him to come closer. Mian's brain starts buffering as he realizes he's about to get exactly what he asked for. Yan grabs him, and it's game over for Mian's composure. They lock lips in a heavy session that leaves Mian completely caught in 4K by his own desires. When they finally break for air, Mian is huffing and puffing on the sofa, looking totally wrecked. Yan looks down at him, checking to see if he's still alive. But Mian is busy noticing a massive glitch in his synesthesia. Yan's mood value has completely disappeared. Yan asks what's wrong, but Mian is too stunned to speak. Instead of running for the hills, Mian doubles down and asks if he can come back every single day. He's not interested in books or money. He just wants a repeat performance of that kiss. Internally, he's complaining about his brain running out of oxygen, but he's clearly hooked. He finally gathers his things to leave, looking like he's about to spontaneously combust. He sneaks back home with the stolen chain, trying to stay undercover. He runs like his life depends on it, clutching the glass prize. But of course, Grandpa is waiting in the living room, judging him with a fan in hand. Mian is still obsessed with why Yan's mood value vanished while Grandpa's is still at a solid 55. Grandpa starts yelling about betrayal and revolution because Mian is acting suspicious as heck. Mian just tiptoes past the drama and heads straight for his room. Back in bed, Mian finally lets the reality sink and he actually kissed Kongshan. He remembers how intense it was and how it tasted like lemon-flavored soda. He lets out a silent scream of pure embarrassment into his pillow. Then the panic sets in, worrying that he left too abruptly and sounded like a total weirdo. He realizes he basically asked for daily makeout sessions and even made off with the wind chime. He starts rolling around his bed like a chaotic mess, unable to handle the cringe. His foot slips during his internal crisis. He accidentally kicks the chime right off the desk. It hits the floor and shatters into a million pieces, leaving Mian absolutely horrified by his own clumsiness. Mian is currently having a total meltdown because he accidentally smashed the wind chime that serves as his secret signal with Yan. He desperately scrolls through online shops to find a replacement, but his heart sinks when he realizes nothing matches the original, leaving him stressed about how to pay the man back. Then later, he runs into little Q and Yan at the car, where the kid excitedly announces she's finally better and heading back to school. Yan stays quiet in the driver's seat, his expression unreadable as the plans for the evening are discussed. Mian agrees to head over to their place tonight, trying to act like his pulse isn't currently racing. When he gets back to his job at the bookstore, the staff is relieved to see him back on the clock. His coworker Tian is especially happy since he's been pulling double shifts and is ready to dip out for a day off tomorrow. Mian, however, is preoccupied with the fact that his synesthesia is straight up glitching. He can see everyone else's mood values except for Yan. Internally, he scoffed. Did that kiss break my superpowers or what? To test his theory, he decides he needs a control group for a little experiment. He sets his sights on Wen Ying, who is currently helping out at the register. As soon as Tian heads to the back, Mian follows Wen Ying like a silent shadow. He corners him in the storage room, looking like he's about to drop some heavy news. Wen Ying nearly jumps out of his skin when he realizes Mian is looming right behind him. Mian pulls the best friend card, hoping to butter him up for a massive favor. Wen Ying is visibly confused, but tells him to go ahead and speak his mind. Then Mian drops a bombshell that would make anyone short-circuit. He asks Wen Ying if he can kiss him. The silence in the room is deafening as Wen Ying stares at him like he's lost his mind. Even though his mood value is a solid 70, Mian immediately realizes he's messed up and tries to backtrack before things get even weirder. Wen Ying awkwardly explains that he's straight and very much taken, so a kiss is definitely off the table. Thinking fast, Mian fakes a laugh and claims it was all just a dare for a penalty game. Wen Ying buys the lie, letting out a huge sigh of relief now that the awkwardness has subsided. He heads out with a box of books, leaving Mian to process his failure. Mian realizes he's going to have to call Sun Rai to make sure she clears his name before Wen Ying thinks he's actually caught feelings. Suddenly, Mian hears a noise and notices one of the locker room doors is slightly ajar. He reaches out to close it, feeling a sudden chill. But he's caught in 4K when the door opens to reveal a very stone-faced Yan. Mian's anxiety hits an all-time high because without the mood values, he has no idea if Yan is about to yell or just walk away. Before he can even apologize, Yan pins him against the wall in a classic power move, demanding to know what he was doing with Wen Ying. Mian is absolutely blindsided by the intensity of the confrontation. Yan admits he heard every single word of the kissing request, and he is clearly not vibing with Mian's experiment. Mian tries to play it off as a harmless joke, but his voice is shaking. Yan gets even closer, asking if their session yesterday was so bad that Mian already had to look for a replacement to mess around with. Panicking, Mian swears he actually liked the kiss and tells Yan he can kiss him as much as he wants. He basically promises to be a good boy, and only do those things with Yan if he just stops being mad. Yan finally pulls back, looking a bit exhausted as he explains that wasn't even the point. He tells Mian to stop being so impulsive and to actually think before he acts, claiming he has no right to be mad about who Mian dates. Mian quickly agrees, promising to stay on his best behavior from now on. He tentatively asks if the plan for tonight is still on. Yan gives him a reality check, reminding him that he already made a promise to Q to come over. As Yan walks away, Mian's heart is pounding so hard he thinks it might explode, wondering if this is the glitch or just pure attraction. Yan heads out, leaving Mian to deal with the aftermath of his own chaos. Mian finally lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, feeling the heat rise to his face. He collapses to the floor, realizing he needs to get his head in the game before seeing them later. Later that evening, Mian is at home having dinner with his grandpa when the conversation takes a dark turn. The grandpa drops the news that Mian's father is planning to visit this weekend. Mian instantly loses his appetite because his relationship with his dad is basically non-existent. He reflects on how weirdly distant they've always been compared to other families. In his memories, his dad was nothing but a suit who cared more about work than his own son's life. He remembers his parents constantly fighting, with his mother crying while he laid sick in bed, ignored by a workaholic father. And now, after years of silence following the divorce, this sudden visit feels like a total death flag for Mian's peace of mind. He asks Grandpa what the original drama was between his dad and Grandma that led to the family split. The Grandpa explains that they were both too stubborn, with one wanting to leave the island and the other refusing to let go. Mian admits he's glad he takes after his grandpa's patient personality instead. Grandpa jokingly scolds him, telling him to apologize to his grandma's memory for the shade. Mian plays along, offering a quick prayer of apology to her spirit. Before the night ends, Grandpa tells him to take some cold watermelon over to Yan and Q. Mian rings the bell at the bookstore residence, feeling the nerves kick in all over again. Yan opens the door, looking effortless as always, and takes the fruit while telling Mian to hurry inside before he catches a cold. Mian is officially part of the family now, spending his evening getting schooled in racing games by little Q. While they're burning rubber on the screen, Q gets competitive and demands a rematch. The competition is fierce, with their mini avatars flying across the finish line in a blur of pixels. Yan plays the ultimate girl dad, serving up snacks like he's running a 5-star resort. Mian notices something that hits him right in the feels. Yan actually took the time to de-seed every single slice of watermelon. Internally, he was basically a puddle of goo thinking, "This watermelon is so sweet, it's literally filling my heart with joy." As night falls over the island, the cozy vibes continue. But the clock strikes 10 and Yen pulls the plug on the fun because it's officially past Q's bedtime. He hauls the tiny gamer upstairs, threatening to revoke her video game privileges if she doesn't cooperate. Q isn't going down without a fight, though, squinting at them like she's caught them in 4K. She suspiciously asks what the adults even do once she's tucked away in her room. Yen keeps it PG, stone-facedly claiming that they just spend their time reading books. Mayan is just standing there with a face that screams he knows that's a total lie. Internally, he scoffed, "Silly child, I play with you when you're awake, but I play with Shan when you're asleep." Suddenly, the UI for Mian's life finally reloads, and Yan's mood value pops back up at a solid 65. Mian realizes his synesthesia has a very specific 24-hour cooldown after a kiss, which is honestly way too precise. He starts overthinking the mystery of the human body, wondering if his brain is just trolling him at this point. Yan catches him spacing out and heads back down the stairs to see what's on his mind. Mian tries to play it cool, acting like he wasn't just contemplating the mechanics of his own psyche. But then he loses all his chill and just goes for it, asking Yen for a kiss right then and there. Yen doesn't need to be told twice, leaning into gaining exactly what he asked for. Things escalate from 0 to 100 real quick, and Mian feels like he's about to be swallowed alive. Internally, he gasped. This is way more intense than the practice round yesterday. Yen eventually pulls back, looking at a flushed Mian and asking if he's actually scared. Mian is definitely feeling some type of way, worried Yen might actually take his shirt off and devour him right there. Yen decides to be a gentleman for once, telling Mian it's late and he should head home to rest. Mian is left lying on the floor like a discarded bag of chips, wondering if they are really done for the night. He's a total blushing mess as he picks himself up. He's terrified that Yen noticed how much he was actually vibing with the intensity. Then he spots something that sends his heart rate into overdrive. Yan is clearly affected by their little session too. Internally, Mian panicked. "It's huge. I need to stop looking before I short circuit." He tries to distract himself by apologizing for breaking Yan's wind chime. Yan just brushes it off with a "don't worry about it," looking remarkably calm for someone who was just in the trenches. Mian makes a hasty exit before things get any more awkward. He sneaks back home under the cover of night, hoping to avoid a lecture from his guardian. But Grandpa is waiting and immediately spots the giant red mark on his neck. Mian panics and blames a giant mosquito, which is the oldest, most transparent lie in history. Grandpa tells him to put some ointment on it, but Mian knows that mosquito bite isn't going away anytime soon. To the next day at the bookstore, Mian is back on the clock, wearing a tactical bandage to hide the evidence. He's struggling to reconcile the polite boss version of Yan with the passionate beast from last night, lamenting how hard life is when you can't see mood values. But suddenly, their coworker Tian calls them over to look at something important. He grabs a framed photo from the counter. They all huddle around to see the mysterious picture. It's a shot of Mian in full waifu mode from the festival, and Tian thinks Yan has a secret girlfriend. Mian has to drop the bombshell that the pretty lady in the photo is actually just him. Later in the staff lounge, the duo sits down for a quiet lunch break. Their peaceful meal is interrupted when Mian's phone starts blowing up on the table. He picks up, wondering who's calling him during his precious downtime. It's Luo Feilang on the other end, acting like he's Mian's best friend. Luo tries to invite him to a music festival this Sunday, but Mian shuts him down immediately because his dad is visiting. Then Luo has the audacity to ask for Yan's number, which earns him an instant hang-up from a jealous Mian. Yan looks up from his food, sensing the tension, and asks if they're still talking to that guy. The Mian is currently sweating bullets, feeling like he's been caught red-handed cheating on a partner, even though he and aren't even official yet. He stammers out a weak defense, claiming the person on the phone was just his friend Sun Rui. Yan isn't buying the suspicious vibes and points out that the caller definitely sounded like a guy. Mian doubles down on the lies, claiming Sun Rui just has a really bad cold, but Yan remains skeptical about anyone catching a cold in this heat. Mian looks out the window and realizes the weather is actually perfect, making his excuse look absolutely pathetic. Internally, he's screaming, "Why am I so bad at this?" Before desperately blaming the indoor air conditioning for the mystery illness. Yan's eyes suddenly lock onto a band-aid on Mian's neck, and he asks if the boy managed to hurt himself. Before Mian can spin another lie, Yan reaches out and band-aid off, exposing the massive hickey he left there himself. The realization hits Yan like a truck, and he immediately goes quiet, feeling a bit guilty for being so reckless. Mian's face turns into a literal tomato as he insists that it's totally fine and not a big deal. Yan offers to go find a fresh band-aid to cover the mark back up, but Mian's intuition starts short-circuiting. Internally, he scoffs. If I stay here any longer, something way more dangerous than a hickey is going to happen. So he decides to just leave it as it is. Later that day, Mian spends some quality time with little Q and a pair of adorable kittens, wondering where the fluff balls will end up once they grow up. Q is worried about what happens after they're weaned, fearing they might be abandoned. Mian reassures her that they aren't going to leave the cats on the streets and plans to ask Sunrai to help find them a proper home. He promises the little girl that he'll do his absolute best to get them adopted together so they never have to be separated. After the wholesome moment, Mian realizes it's getting late and tells Q it's time to head back. As night falls over the neighborhood, the atmosphere gets heavy with unspoken tension. Standing at the doorway, Yan drops a casual invite for Mian to come inside for a bit. Mian turns him down, claiming his father is arriving tomorrow and he needs to get to bed early. Internally, he admits he's using his dad as a shield because he's waiting to see if his synesthesia mood values will finally reappear. He's also low-key terrified that if he steps foot inside that house, he won't be able to resist jumping Yan's bones. He decides it's much safer for his sanity to just stay outside and keep his distance for now. Mian breaks the news that since his dad is staying the night, he won't be able to come over at all tomorrow. Yan looks a bit blindsided by the sudden boundary but simply accepts the situation. Mian wonders why the man is just standing there staring instead of going inside. He decides he's had enough tension for one night. He turns to leave, his face glowing bright red as he beats a hasty retreat. He waves a quick goodbye, and Yan watches him go with a soft expression, wishing him a good night. The next morning, the sun is up, and the birds are chirping, signaling the start of a stressful day. Grandpa knocks on the door to wake Mian up, announcing that his father has finally arrived. Mian drags himself to the mirror to make sure his hair is neat and his shirt isn't wrinkled, wanting to look like a functioning adult. He heads out to the living area and finds his dad and grandpa already catching up. It's been 2 whole years since Mian last saw his father, and he notes that the man looks way more serious than he remembers. Breakfast is served with a spread of buns and cakes, but the atmosphere is a bit stiff. Mian tries to stay low profile by stuffing his face with food. Grandpa, being a total chatterbox, brings up the fact that Mian was the rain-stopping goddess during the recent festival. Dad is visibly confused, probably trying to process his son being a festival deity. Grandpa keeps going, mentioning how Mian, the neighbor the bookstore owner, were a perfect match during the event. He praises Yan for being a great guy who even helps fix their constant power issues. Mian takes the opportunity to complain about the dangerous wiring in the house, begging them to finally hire a professional. Grandpa waves it off, arguing that the house is old and a total money pit, especially since Mian will be heading off to college soon anyway. Mian isn't having it, pointing out that using power sparingly won't stop a potential house fire. Grandpa finally caves but complains that they'll have nowhere to stay while the house is under repair. Dad offers up his own place, telling them he has plenty of space for both of them. Grandpa immediately shoots the idea down, claiming their daily habits are too different and they just end up fighting. Mayan also declines the move, explaining that his job at the bookstore keeps him tied to the island. Dad is surprised to hear Mian even has a job, but he drops the subject and suggests they go visit Mian's mother's grave. They arrive at the cemetery and lay down a fresh bouquet of flowers. As they stand before the headstone, Mayan's synesthesia finally kicks in, showing his father's mood value as a deep, mourning blue. Even though his father's face is a perfect mask of stoicism, Mayan realizes the man is actually drowning in grief and misses his wife more than anyone knew. Family drama is on the menu as the group gathers outside to reminisce about the good old days with Aunt Shu. It turns out Aunt Shu was the local legend who used to bribe Mian with mountains of candy before she passed away from a sudden illness, a tragedy that hit Mian's dad so hard he actually got sick from grief. Mian's dad looks like he's carrying a massive load of guilt, probably because he hasn't stepped foot back here since she died. And while Mian snacks, he can't help but think that his dad's legendary stubbornness is exactly what tanked his parents' marriage. Grandpa finally calls a timeout on the depressing talk, while a family friend asks why Mian's dad is suddenly back in town. He explains that the house is basically a giant fire hazard thanks to ancient electrical wiring. But the real struggle is that neither Grandpa nor Mian wants to leave while the repairs are happening. Luckily, the family friend has a big brain moment. She pulls out her phone to show off a perfect solution. Why not just send the elders on a 10-day vacation so the electricians can work in peace? The grandpa is immediately sold on the idea, looking like he just won the lottery. He has a brief moment of, wait, what about the kid? But Mian insists he can handle being home alone. The family friend suggests Mian stay at her place, Gupo Tang, to pet sit her dog and cat while he's at it. With the logistics settled, Grandpa officially commits to the trip. Back at the house, packing is a total chaotic mess because Grandpa wants to bring his entire life story in one suitcase. Mian tries to tell him hotels actually provide soap, but Grandpa isn't trusting anyone else's toiletries. He's even worried about his herbal egg business, insisting he needs a sign to tell his customers he's on a 10-day hiatus talk about a dedicated side hustle. Just then, Mian's dad walks in to check on the progress, only to find out they're already done. He tells them to get some sleep, heading off to his own room. The vibe in the room is officially awkward, with a capital A as Mian and his dad prepare to share the same space. Mian makes an excuse to go close the windows just to escape the heavy silence. Internally, he's short-circuiting because it's been years since he's had to sleep in the same room as his father. Peeking outside, he spots Yan Kongshan taking a smoke break and gives him a quiet goodnight. Once the lights are out, his dad drops a heavy one. Mian, do you hate me? Mian is blindsided by the question. He realizes he doesn't actually feel enough to hate him. The guy has just been a ghost in his life for so long. Hate is way too strong of a word for someone who is basically a stranger with the same last name. He starts spiraling through all the things his dad probably doesn't know, like his birthday, or the time he was hospitalized for days after falling from a tree, or the words on his very first Father's Day card. Eventually, Mian decides dwelling on the past is a waste of energy and drifts off. The next morning, the absentee dad guilt is in full swing as they stand by the car. He tries to hand Mian a fat envelope of cash for school. Mian tries to pull the I'm fine card, but his dad insists, admitting he's been a bottom-tier father and wants to make up for it. Mian finally takes the hush money, keeping things civil. His dad reminds him the electricians are coming tomorrow, which means Mian is officially grounded from visiting Yan Kongshan for 3 days talk about a buzzkill. As his dad drives off, Mian watches him go with a complicated look. In the car, his dad thinks about how Mian is destined to leave this island eventually, just like he did. Mian knows his dad is right. There's nothing on this island for his career path. He's destined for the big city, and he can't just stay in one place forever. Still, he knows he's nothing like his father, and that fundamental difference is probably why his parents couldn't make it work. Night falls and Mian arrives at Gupotang to start his solo stay. He immediately fires off a text to Yan Kongshan to let him know he's moved in for the next 10 days. He sends a cute dog meme to keep it light, and Yan asks what he's doing tonight. Mian starts typing, "Does someone miss me?" but hits the delete button fast because he's not ready to be caught in 4K like that. He settles for a see you after dinner and admires the nice environment of his temporary home. However, the nice environment gets real spooky real fast once he's alone with a flashlight. Every little creak of the old wood has him pausing in his tracks. He realizes that staying in an old building solo requires way more bravery than he currently possesses, especially for midnight bathroom runs. He ends up sprinting up the stairs and diving under the covers like a kid hiding from a monster. The next day at the bookstore, Mian looks like a zombie. Yan asks if he was up all night partying. Mian admits he barely slept because the Gupotang felt like it was straight out of a horror movie. Yan, being a total troll, starts talking about how human energy turns into magnetic fields that linger for decades. Before Mian can die of fear, a customer interrupts the ghost talk. After Yan rings the girl up, he gets back to the important stuff. He asks what Mian is doing for dinner since Grandpa is gone. Mian says he'll probably just grab some sad takeout, but Yan hits him with the ultimate invite. You can come to my place for dinner. Being home alone in a spooky house is a total vibe, but scoring a dinner invite from your crush That is the ultimate win. Yan Kongshan casually drops the invitation, suggesting Mian just eat with them since he's heading over later anyway. Internally, Mian was spiraling, thinking, is he making a move or am I just overthinking a plate of rice? After a solid meal at Yan's place, everyone is officially in a food coma. Yan plays the perfect host, ordering Mian to go relax in the living room while he handles the cleanup. Mian tries to play the helpful guest, but Yan isn't having it and sends him packing to the couch. Mian ends up gaming with little Hugh, who casually asks where he's staying tonight. When he mentions the big red house up the road, the mood shifts instantly. Even though they're busy playing a cooking simulator, Q is focused on the tomatoes. But then she drops a major death flag, admitting that the big red house is actually super creepy. Mian's confidence takes a massive hit as he realizes he has to go back there alone. Q claims she gets the shivers just walking past it, leaving Mian imagining a horror movie scenario for his commute home. Later, Mian is sitting on the floor, caught in 4K, looking absolutely terrified of the dark. Yan walks in and catches him mid-crisis, asking what's on his mind. Mian checks if Q is asleep first, trying to keep his next move low-key. He finally gathers the courage to ask if he can crash on the couch for the night. Yan is confused, asking if Gupo Tang is really that uncomfortable. Mian tries to play it off as just being cold, but he's internally screaming at the awkwardness. Yan, being a total gentleman, tells Mian to take the bed while he takes the couch. Mian feels guilty because he's small and can fit anywhere, while Yan is a literal giant. Yan just gives him that "don't argue with me" look and insists. Mian grabs his arm, hesitating as his heart starts racing. Then he drops the boldest suggestion of the night. Why don't we just sleep in the bed together? After a quick winter-themed title break, Mian almost regrets being so bold and offers to just go home. But Yan actually agrees, and Mian's heart starts doing backflips against his ribs. Mian stares at him, wondering why his synesthesia isn't turning Yan yellow with lust yet. Yan then tells him to go shower and offers up his own clothes for Mian to wear. Mian is completely shook by the offer. Half an hour later, Mian emerges wearing Yan's oversized shirt, looking like he's drowning in fabric and visual cues. Yan is already in bed, looking cool and collected. They hop under the covers together, and the tension is high enough to power the entire island. Yan turns off the light but immediately notices something is off. He realizes Mian used Q's kid-friendly, strawberry-scented body wash. He teases him, saying the sweet scent actually suits him perfectly since he's basically a kid. He bids Mian goodnight, leaving the poor guy wide awake and overstimulated. Mian is staring at the ceiling, wondering if he should have just stayed in the haunted house instead of this romantic torture. Yan notices the tossing and turning and asks if he's having trouble falling asleep. Then, with zero warning and maximum impact, Yan asks, "Do you want a kiss?" Mian's brain completely short-circuits as the words echo in his head. He manages to choke out a "yes, please," and the atmosphere shifts instantly. They lock lips, and things get spicy fast as the metaphorical flowers start blooming in the room. In the heat of the moment, Mian whispers Shan, dropping the formal titles for the first time. Yan is caught off guard by the sudden intimacy. He gives Mian's wrist a gentle bite, making Mian finally decide to shoot his shot. Mian asks the big question, "Can you be my boyfriend?" He tries to sell it as a trial run, saying they can break up if it doesn't work. But Yan isn't making it easy, claiming he loves being single and doesn't need the drama of a relationship. After a bold confession, Mian is finally getting what he wants, but with a major catch. Yan is busy dumping his emotional baggage, explaining that he's terrified of a relationship ending badly and turning into a bitter shell of a man who can no longer trust anyone. He warns Mian that if things go south, it'll hurt like hell, but Mian brushes it off, reminding him that he's already survived being rejected by his supposed boyfriend Fu Wei. Mian literally begs for a chance, determined to focus on the present instead of worrying about some future heartbreak. And finally, Yan caves, calling him a troublesome kid before officially agreeing to give it a shot. But don't pop the champagne just yet. Yan clarifies that this is strictly a probationary relationship to see if they actually work. Internally, Mian cheered. "A win is a win, I'll take it." The trial period is set to end when school starts, which is less than 2 weeks away. Mian is totally fine with that deadline, happily snuggling back into bed. He even shoots his shot by asking for more kisses, but Yan shuts it down, telling him it's time for actual sleep. They exchange sweet goodnights, ending the night on a high note. Morning arrives with the birds chirping outside the house. The alarm clock hits 8:10 a.m. sharp, and a hand quickly slaps the snooze button to silence the beeping. Mian wakes up looking like a total mess, but Yan is right there to greet him. He gets a tender morning greeting that makes all the previous drama feel worth it. Fast forward to work, and Mian realizes his special mood value ability has vanished now that they're official-ish. It's a struggle because Yan has suddenly turned into a kissing monster, cornering him in the staff lounge whenever he gets the chance. Even behind the store isn't safe, leaving Mian terrified they're gonna get caught in 4K by their coworkers. After a particularly risky session, Mian scurries back inside. Yan watches him go, looking like a man who knows exactly what he's doing. When Mian asks when he's finally going to teach him how to smoke, Yan drops the hammer. He gives a firm never to the request, to his reasoning. He doesn't want his boyfriend picking up the habit, proving he's a total hypocrite. Back in the shop, Mian's friends Sun Rui and Wen Ying are waiting for him with suspicious looks. He tries to play it cool, claiming he was just organizing the stockroom. But Sun Rui isn't buying it, pointing out the suspicious dust all over his shoulders. Mian panics, making up some BS story about old books and smart mice to explain the mess. The friends suggest setting traps to deal with the rodent problem. Sun Rui even suggests they should just get a cat to hunt them down. Mian thinks a cat is a great idea for Yan's daughter, Q, but then he commits a massive blunder. He accidentally mentions staying at Shan's place, instantly realizing he just exposed his living situation. The friends are stunned, and Wen Ying awkwardly mentions he would have invited Mian over if his place wasn't so small. Dying of embarrassment, Mian bolts back to the stockroom to hide his shame. Sun Rui corners him immediately, demanding to know why he's staying with the boss and using such an intimate nickname. Realizing there's no way out, Mian finally spills the tea. They're dating. Sun Rui goes from 0 to 100, screaming in excitement and demanding to know his secrets for reeling in a catch like Yan. Mian points out she already has a boyfriend, so why does she need his Riz secrets? She jokes that she needs a backup plan, just in case her current relationship tanks someday. Mian explains there isn't much to teach, other than the fact that Yan is obsessed with one specific thing. He clarifies that the thing is kissing, and he's not talking about a quick peck. Sun Rui's brain finally short-circuits, as she realizes that the dust on his shoulder came from a heavy make-out session in the very room they're standing in. Probationary relationship is officially in full swing, but Mian's friends are already digging for the spicy details. Sun Rui is a total menace, straight up, asking if the two of them have already crossed the finish line. She starts clapping and giving him that knowing look, leaving Mian internally screaming because he's been caught in 4K. Mian tries to play it cool with a no, but Sun Rui tells him he needs to get his game on unless he wants to spend his nights staring at the ceiling. Mian knows he can't just rush things during a trial period, even if his friends are pressuring him to speedrun the romance. Later at home, Q is on a mission with a school art project that requires things found in nature. She's picked out a whole bag of leaves and flowers, and she's ready to teach Mian how it's done. Mian agrees, ready to be the best trial stepdad ever. Yan tries to chime in with some critique, complaining that the overall tone of the drawing is way too green. Q isn't having it and hits him with the sass, claiming she loves green and that's that. Mian immediately sides with the little boss, telling Yan he knows absolutely nothing about art and should probably just be ignored. As the clock ticks late into the evening, Yan is looking like a total zombie while Q is finally ready to pass out. The little one is yawning her head off, officially done for the day. Yan carries her off to bed, and casual as Mian, it's time for them to hit the sheets too. Mian is completely blindsided by the invite to sleep in the same bed. He feels the heat as they walk to the room, thinking this is getting way too intimate for a simple test run. After Mian gets out of the shower, he finds Yan waiting for him in the hallway. He gets hit with a legendary wall slam as Yan traps him against the surface. It turns out Yan is still salty about being ignored during the art session earlier. Mian tries to laugh it off as a joke, but Yan's expression says he's not playing around. Yan decides a verbal apology isn't going to cut it for his boy-fi and leans in close. He calls Mian out for being even more clueless than him before closing the distance. Yan goes in for a deep kiss, telling Mian he'll teach him the ropes this time, but Mian better take the lead next time. Mian's brain completely short-circuits, and he realizes that making your partner's mind go blank is a top-tier strategy to win an argument. The next day, Mian is on grocery duty with Q, coming home with bags full of supplies. He sets the groceries down in the kitchen, ready to show off his culinary skills. He pulls up a recipe on his phone, feeling like a pro chef about to tackle some curry. He starts frying up marinated pork chops, praying that the oil won't decide to attack him. The sizzle is intense as the meat hits the pan. Internally, he hissed, "I definitely shouldn't have thought about it," after a tiny splash of oil catches him. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, interrupting his rhythm. Q wonders if it's a delivery, but Mian is just as confused. Mian opens the door to find a sophisticated woman standing there. It's Yan's Aunt Shu. Q immediately recognizes her and loses her mind with excitement, shouting for Auntie. They share a wholesome hug, and Mian notices their mood values are hitting a solid 80. He remembers that people are usually happy when the value is above 80, like when they get a day off. And if someone wins the lottery, that value usually shoots up past 90. Aunt Sue spots the random guy in an apron and asks who he is. Mian panics and claims he's just a neighbor staying over because his house wiring is under repair. Aunt Shu buys the neighbor story and introduces herself as Shan's aunt. She notices the apron and asks if he's in the middle of making lunch. Mid-conversation, Mian realizes his pork chop is currently turning into charcoal. He bails on the chat to sprint back to the stove. Luckily, he had the foresight to turn the gas off earlier, so he didn't actually burn the house down. He decides to call Yan to tell him not to bother buying lunch since the curry is ready. Yan answers, assuming Q was the one who requested the pork chops. Mian confirms it but then drops the real bombshell. He casually mentions that Yan's aunt has arrived. Yan's face instantly drops into a mask of pure dread as his peaceful day is officially cancelled. Mian is currently playing the world's most awkward game of just the neighbor while Yan's Aunt Sue breathes down their necks. Despite the secret relationship stress, Mian plays the perfect host and asks Aunt Sue if she's ready for some grub. The Aunt Sue is basically on that girl dinner diet and asks for a tiny portion because she's watching her figure. Mian decides to whip up some curry pork chops, hoping a good meal will distract her from sniffing out the truth. So while the clock ticks away, the tension in the house is thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Mian serves up the goods to the aunt and little Q, looking like the ultimate house husband. The little Q is hyped and calls out for Dad, Shan, to join the feast. The Aunt Shu greets him with that classic relative energy, but you just know a lecture is coming. They write on cue, she starts nagging Yan about being nearly 30 and still not being settled down. Yan is clearly over this conversation, telling her he's heard it 1,000 times and his answer hasn't changed. He doubles down on the bachelor life, insisting he's perfectly fine being single while Mian and Q just try to eat their rice in peace. Aunt Sue isn't backing down, bringing up his parents to guilt-trip him into a more traditional life. Yan shuts it down instantly, saying his parents aren't the type to force his hand or make him do anything he doesn't want to. Realizing she's hitting a brick wall, Aunt Sue finally drops the marriage talk. But she's got a bigger bomb to drop, and it's all about little Q's future. She reveals that a man named Ding Baizhu is only in town for a couple of months before heading back abroad, and Mian realizes this aunt is a total wild card. Yan's face goes dark, and he tells her they need to take this conversation outside to keep it away from the kids. They head out to the balcony, leaving the others behind to deal with the fallout. The door clicks shut, sealing in the family drama. Mian tries to be the responsible adult, telling Q to stop eavesdropping and go play some video games. But Q has already heard enough she knows Aunt Sue wants Yan to give that guy a chance because of her, and Mian internally scoffs, thinking the guy doesn't deserve even a second of their time. Outside, the argument heats up as Aunt Sue points out that Q will eventually want to find her biological father anyway. Yan is absolutely not having it, looking like he's ready to throw hands at the mere suggestion of that man entering their lives. The Aunt Shu throws her hands up, telling him it's his life and he can do whatever he wants. Suddenly, the door flies open and little Q begs them to stop fighting. She drops a bombshell of her own, saying she's actually down to meet up with him. Yan tries that this is for grown-ups card to protect her from the messy reality. But Q stands her ground, looking her dad in the eye and insisting she wants to meet him. Seeing the determination in her eyes, Yan realizes he can't keep her in a bubble forever. He lets out a defeated sigh and finally agrees to the meeting. Later that night, Yan is out on the bench, chain-smoking and looking like he's carrying the weight of the world. Mian spots him and decides to offer some silent support, sitting down next to his stressed-out man. Yan tries to play it cool, complimenting the dinner, while Mian admits he's still a bit of a noob in the kitchen. That's when Yan notices something off. Mian's got a nasty burn on his hand. He grabs Mian's arm to inspect the damage, making Mian feel like a total klutz. Internally, Mian is screaming, "Great, now he thinks I'm incompetent," but Yan just looks worried about how often Mian gets hurt. Yan jokes that he's going to have to baby-proof the entire house just to keep Mian in one piece. Mian is a bit confused by the comment, but the way Yan is holding his hand is definitely giving main character energy. Yan gets all intense, telling Mian that from now on, everything he does has to go through him first to ensure he stays safe. Mian's heart starts doing backflips, and he's wondering why this overprotective vibe is so insanely attractive. But then Yan ruins the moment by saying he was just kidding and tells Mian to head inside for some first aid. Mian is left standing there, completely blindsided that the romantic tension was apparently a joke. The next day, the dreaded meeting happens at a cafe and the vibe is beyond awkward. Even though Mian can't see the supernatural mood values right now, he's 100% sure Yan is seeing red. Yan is sitting there with his arms crossed, looking like he's second away from punching the biological father. Mian tries to break the ice, but Yan is so deep in his feelings he doesn't even hear him. Yan eventually snaps out of it and asks what Mian said. Mian brings up the upcoming military training at school, and Yan warns him it's going to be absolute hell for someone like him. Yan even starts giving him survival tips on where to find the best cheap food near the south side of campus. Meanwhile, the biological father is just watching them, probably feeling like the ultimate third wheel in this conversation. While Aunt Sue and the new guy are laughing and acting like a happy family, Yan is brooding in the corner. Mian totally gets why. Yan is salty watching the kid you raised for 5 years bond with your enemy is a major villain origin story. Trying to dig a little deeper, Mian asks the one question he probably shouldn't. Can you tell me more about Q's mom? Things are getting heavy as Mian decides it's time to stop dancing around the subject and finally asks Yan Kongshan about the woman who started it all, Q's mother, Yan Xinyu. Yan takes a breath, his expression softening as he mentions his sister. He explains that everyone used to describe her with one specific word, strong. Mian wonders if being strong is actually a backhanded compliment, But Yan clarifies that she was simply better than most men and didn't need one to survive. It turns out, Ding Beizhou initially chased her because of that independence, only to dump her later because she was too opinionated, a total logic fail that makes him a certified jerk in Yan's eyes. Yan didn't even know they'd broken up until Ding fled the country, leaving a pregnant Jinyu behind. Despite Yan's worries about her being a single mother, she refused to back down, insisting the baby was hers alone. Yan looks at the coffee in his hand, marveling at how she never let society's expectations break her. Mian watches the couples passing by their booth, lost in thought. Internally, he scoffed. Why is it that men have to be strong while women are expected to be fragile? He tells Yan that these labels are trash and that people should just be allowed to be themselves without being pre-labeled. Yan looks at Mian, clearly moved by his perspective. Deep down, Yan admits he just wished his sister had trusted him enough to rely on him once in a while. Mian reassures him that she wasn't trying to be stronger than men, she was just naturally a powerhouse. The heavy atmosphere finally breaks when Yan looks at Mian and smiles. He leans in, shifting from serious brother to flirtatious boyfriend in record time. He asks Mian if he's naturally this cute, completely short-circuiting Mian's brain. Mian hides behind his drink, blushing like a tomato while Yan enjoys the view. Internally, Mian panicked. He can call me whatever he wants as long as he doesn't call me a kid again. The romantic tension is interrupted when Aunt Shu arrives with Q in tow. Q immediately clings to Yan, announcing she wants to stay at her aunt's place for a few days. Yan's face drops as he realizes this means she'll be spending more time with Ding Beizhou. Aunt Sue explains that Ding wants to bond with his daughter before he leaves. Yan's eyes narrow, clearly not vibing with this Father of the Year act. He asks Q if this is really what she wants. When she gives an enthusiastic yes, Yan realizes he can't stand in her way. Aunt Sue tries to smooth things over, mentioning she already has clothes for the girl, so Yan doesn't even need to go home. Sensing the mood is getting awkward, Q turns to Mian to change the subject, asking what he's drinking. Mian offers her a taste test while Yan watches his little girl growing up too fast. Q decides Mian's drink is weird, but still better than whatever bitter stuff Yan is drinking. Suddenly, a car horn blares outside. Ding Beizhou's driver has arrived to pick them up in a flashy white Audi. Q tells Yan he can put her down now because her ride is here. With a final goodbye to Shan and Mian, the little girl heads out with Aunt Shu. Yan watches them go, his brows furrowed in a mix of sadness and irritation. Mian asks if they should head out too, and Yan agrees, calling for the check. But when he tries to pay, he gets hit with the ultimate disrespect. The waiter informs them that Mr. Ding already covered the bill. Yan isn't about to let his rival pull a power move like that, so he slams cash onto the table anyway and storms out. Mian follows him, watching Yan's brooding silhouette as they walk through the city. Eventually, Yan stops and apologizes for his sour mood. Mian just smiles, taking Yan's hand and leading him home. Later that night, Mian whips up some dinner, wondering how Yan is holding up. Yan has been MIA in his room since they got back, which is totally out of character. Mian decides it's time to step up and show what he can do as a partner, even if he feels like he's still on probation. He enters the darkened bedroom to find Yan buried under the covers like a giant sad burrito. Mian tries to coax him out for dinner. Instead of getting up, Yan grabs Mian and pulls him into a tight hug, admitting he's not feeling so good. Mian finds the sight of this big, tough guy acting like a needy puppy absolutely adorable. He asks Yan how he can help and mentions the noodles he made. Yan just keeps his head buried, clearly wanting more than just food. Mian tells him to look at him, realizing that his boyfriend needs some serious TLC. Taking charge, Mian cups Yan's face and tells him to close his eyes, leaning in to deliver the best medicine possible, a kiss. That definitely beats any bowl of noodles. Things are getting spicy as Mian and Shan share a heated moment before reality kicks back in. While scrubbing away the tension in the shower, Mian starts spiraling about his probationary boyfriend status and whether he's actually making the cut. Internally, he worried, is he actually into me, or am I just a temporary distraction? After drying off, he finds Shan slumped on the floor, surrounded by photos of little Q. Seeing the kid smiling with sunflowers makes it clear that Shan is seriously hurting while his daughter is away with her bio dad. Mian decides to be the ultimate supportive partner and grabs a game controller to distract his man from the gloom. They settle in for some classic gaming, hoping a little button mashing will fix the vibe. As they navigate a knockoff Mario level, the atmosphere seems to lift for a second. But then Mian drops the bomb. School is starting soon, which means their 24/7 cohabitation era is coming to an end. Shan's response is a lukewarm "him," which is basically the universal sign for "I'm avoiding this conversation." Mian pushes his luck and asks the million-dollar question, is Shan even going to miss him? Instead of a sweet confession, Shan hits him with a cryptic line about getting used to this kind of goodbye. He starts yapping about Mian's future career as a diplomat, acting like Mian is destined for bigger things than a small-town bookstore owner. He basically calls Mian a goddess who belongs in the sky, implying that staying together would only drag Mian down into his messy life. Mian is absolutely floored, Wondering if Shan thinks this whole relationship was just a summer fling with an expiration date, he realizes Shan might have only agreed to the probation period to satisfy Mian's wish before he eventually left for university. Feeling totally betrayed by Shan's lack of faith, Mian calls him a liar in his head and decides he's done for the night. He heads upstairs, leaving Shan alone with his thoughts and his self-sacrificing noble idiot energy. Safe in his room, Mian turns to the internet for help, posting his relationship drama on Weibo to see what the netizens think. The comments are a wild mix of concern and chaos, but one person suggests he should just sleep with him to seal the deal, sending Mian into a total blushing meltdown. The next morning, Mian wakes up feeling like he's on cloud 9, because even though they haven't officially hit home base yet, Yan isn't rejecting his advances anymore. Honestly, he's basically addicted to the guy at this point, and can't stand being more than 2 inches away from him. When Yan tries to sneak off for some privacy, Mian is right on his heels like a lost puppy. He intercepts Yan at the door, demanding attention before the man can even start his day. Yan looks at him like he's dealing with a hyperactive kitten, but Mian just gives him the biggest, thirstiest smile possible. He goes in for a full-body hug, but Yan has to lay down some ground rules, telling the kid to at least let him use the bathroom first. Yan gives him a quick head pat to settle him down, which is basically the bare minimum, but Mian is eating it up. Yan tries to peel him off, but Mian is persistent until Yan points out that he's not really into having an audience while he handles his business. Mian just shrugs it off, casually mentioning it's not like he hasn't seen the goods before, leaving Yan completely stunned. Internally, he's laughing because he knows he just short-circuited Yan's brain. He finally lets the man go, promising to wait outside like a good boy. Yan catches him off guard by mentioning that Q is finally coming home and asks Mian to go grocery shopping with him later. Mian is so hyped he even throws in a compliment about Yan's abs as he makes his exit. Yan can only sigh at his little pervert of a boyfriend who has absolutely no filter. Later, Mian checks in on his house renovations and sees the progress is moving way too fast for his liking. The wiring is fixed and the walls are painted, which should be good news, but it's actually a total disaster for his love life. If his house is fixed, he loses his VIP pass to stay at Yan's place every night. Just as he's spiraling, a luxury car pulls up and Q jumps out, looking like she had a total blast. She charges at Mian, but he's quick to tell her that Yan was the one losing his mind with worry while she was gone. Auntie Xu looks incredibly awkward standing by the car, clearly feeling the heat from the family drama. She trails behind them, convinced that Yan is still fuming at her for helping the biological father. Her face is practically screaming for mercy as she watches Yan's back. Mian steps in to play peacemaker, telling her that Yan isn't actually mad at her. He can see the guilt written all over her face. She finally breaks and asks if he's wondering why she even bothered helping that scumbag Ding Baizhu. Logically, she should hate the guy, and Mian's over here thinking the dad didn't even have the balls to claim his own daughter. But Auntie Xu reveals her big brain move. She told him about Q just to make sure he lives the rest of his life drowning in guilt. Mian realizes she wasn't helping the guy at all, she was serving up a cold dish of psychological punishment. He asks if the deadbeat is ever coming back, hoping the answer is a hard no. Back inside, the vibe shifts to pure wholesome energy as they walk into the kitchen. Yan picks up Q, and she makes it clear that while her trip was okay, Nodi beats her Riyadh. Yan. You can practically see Yan's heart melting in real time. He's gone full Gordon Ramsay, and whipped up a feast of all her favorites, including a high-difficulty sweet and sour fish. Q looks like she's ready to ascend to food heaven. She insists on giving Yan the first bite, showing off those top-tier daughter skills. Mian watches the scene, feeling like the family dynamic is finally back in balance. After the meal, the two are in a total fuma on the couch. They decide to settle their beef with a high-stakes racing game. Mian asks her how she really feels about the bio-dad, and she doesn't hold back. She clears her throat, getting ready to spill the tea. Apparently, the guy tried to act all respectful, saying he wouldn't interfere with her life as long as she was happy. But Q caught him in 4K. She knows he's just terrified of his current wife finding out. She grilled him about why he waited so long and why he broke up with her mom, and the guy had absolutely no answers. He tried to throw money at the problem, promising a monthly allowance since he couldn't be there to watch her grow up. Q, being the absolute genius she is, told him to send the money to the aunt so she can sneak it to Yan in red packets. Mian is absolutely floored, wondering if this counts as some kind of money laundering. He concludes that Yan's sister must have been a literal Einstein to have a kid this smart. Internally, he's low-key worried that Q is going to grow up to be a financial mastermind. But before he can think too hard about it, Q crosses the finish line and secures the win. She starts doing a victory dance, calling Mian a total noob who always loses. Later that night, the house finally goes quiet as they tuck Q in. Mian follows Yan out, feeling like it's time for a serious conversation. He lets Yan know that the bio-dad won't be a problem for years, so he can stop stressing about losing Q. Mian stares at him, looking like he's finally found his courage. He tells Yan that if he can trust a little kid like Q to handle her business, maybe he can start putting trust in Mian too. He reaches out, cupping Yan's face with a look that says he's here for the long haul. Then he drops the ultimate bold move, asking Yan if he wants to skip the small talk and just take a shower together. The next morning starts on a wholesome note as Yan and Q bond over feeding the local kittens, making sure the little furballs get enough milk. They start brainstorming a permanent solution, suggesting they raise the cats in Yan's bookstore so they can visit them whenever they want. Q is ready to lead the charge and convince Yan, telling Mian to just be her backup while she handles the heavy lifting. Mian can't help but smile at her enthusiasm and agrees to the plan. The domestic vibes are interrupted when the contractor calls them over to check out the finished renovations. He explains that the entire electrical system has been overhauled, meaning Mian can finally use high-powered appliances without the fear of a blackout. To prove the point, he beeps the remote to a brand-new, high-end air conditioning unit. Mian is told he can now blast the AC on both floors at the same time if he really wants to turn the place into a freezer. Both of them are hyped about the modern upgrades, looking like they just won the lottery. But then Mian's brain short-circuits. He definitely didn't order a new AC. The contractor reveals that Mian's dad was the one who actually bought it. Internally, Mian scoffs. Guess the old man finally decided to be useful for once. With everything looking perfect, Mian signs the completion papers, officially ending the renovation era. As the worker leaves, the reality of the situation hits Mian like a freight train. With the house finished, he has zero excuses left to crash at Yan's place. He looks around the empty, silent house, feeling the sudden weight of the lonely bachelor life. He starts debating if he should still try to stay over tonight, caught between his angel and devil sides. His mind immediately flashes back to the spicy shower session and the cuddles from the night before, making his face turn beet red. He swallows hard, his heart doing triple time just thinking about the physical tension. Internally, he declares, "Forget the new AC, I'm definitely sleeping at Yan's tonight." During dinner, Mian breaks the news that he's taking a day off because his grandpa is finally returning from his trip. Little Q looks absolutely devastated, realizing this means Mian is moving back in his own house. Mian tries to comfort her with some food, reminding her that he's literally just going to be next door. But Q is already thinking about the future, worried about when Mian eventually heads off to college. Mian gives her a soft, reassuring smile, promising to visit whenever he can. They even hatch a plan to send letters back and forth, and Mian starts daydreaming about a long-distance romance. Internally, he's basically swooning, thinking about how romantic it would be to receive a handwritten letter from Yan. By nighttime, Mian is back at his own place, waiting on the balcony because his grandpa's flight got delayed. Finally, the old man arrives, shouting for Mian to come down and help him lug a massive suitcase inside. Grandpa is impressed by the glow-up, noting that the fresh paint and fixed wiring make the place look brand new. Mian tries to lift the suitcase, but the thing is absolutely not budging at first. After putting his back into it, he finally manages to drag the heavy beast through the door. He asks what on earth could be inside to make it weigh this much. Grandpa tells him it's a bunch of useful souvenirs and encourages him to open it up. Inside, it's a chaotic haul of nesting dolls, weird lamps, and for some reason, a mountain of tissues. Mian pulls out a thick leather winter hat, wondering why his grandpa bought Arctic gear for a tropical island. Grandpa eventually calls it a night, leaving Mian alone in his room. He quickly realizes that sleeping without Yan is going to be an uphill battle. He hovers over his WeChat, debating if he should bother Yan the late-night text. He finally gathers the courage to send a quick "Are you up?" and is shocked when Yan replies instantly with "Come over." Mian is completely blindsided by the direct invite, his heart skipping a beat as he realizes Yan wants him there just as much. Even though the renovations are done and Mian has officially moved back home, the late-night cravings for his favorite bookstore owner aren't going away anytime soon. Mian goes full stealth mode, creeping through the house and praying his grandpa doesn't wake up and catch him in 4K. He manages to slip out into the night, looking like a suspicious character in his own neighborhood. He makes his way down the quiet street, heart racing 'cause he's about to break the rules for a little quality time. Waiting by the door like a final boss is Yan Kongshan, looking way too good for someone who should be asleep. Yan doesn't waste any time, closing the distance and cupping Mian's face with a look that screams he's been waiting all night for this. But Mian's brain starts short-circuiting, and he reflexively turns his head, blushing like a romance protagonist. Internally, Mian panics and feeds him a total lie about not being able to sleep if they kiss, when in reality, he just wants to wait a day to see the color of Yan's mood value. Yan isn't buying the excuses though, and his hand slides down Mian's back as he leans in. Before Mian can even process the mood value strategy, Yan pulls him into a deep, breathtaking kiss that sends all logic out the window. Mian melts into the embrace, realizing his plan to stay cool was an absolute fail. When they finally break for air, Yan starts acting surprisingly needy, complaining that Mian didn't comfort him earlier. He points out that Mian was all sweet to little Q when he moved out, but basically left Yan out in the cold. Mian tries to defend himself, arguing that Q is just a little kid. A bad move because Yan immediately traps him with a trick question asking if Mian thinks he's just some old man. Mian's internal alarm bells go off as he stammers that he didn't mean it like that at all. He admits he was just nervous and thought Yan didn't actually care about him moving back home. Yan watches him struggle for a moment, his lips curling into a satisfied smirk. He reveals he was just teasing the whole time, because Mian is way too easy to mess with. Internally, Mian huffs, "You aren't petty, you're literally evil." Yan then drops a heavy invitation, suggesting Mian stay the night to carry out some boyfriend duties. To as much as Mian wants to say yes, he knows Grandpa is an early riser and would absolutely end him if his bed was empty. He tells Yan he has to leave now or he'll never find the strength to walk away. With a final wave, Mian heads home, desperately hoping Yan isn't actually salty about the rejection. Fast forward 1 week and the summer vibes are ending because it's time to head back to school. Mian stares at his packed suitcase, already feeling the long-distance depression hitting him before he's even left. Grandpa interrupts his brooding by dumping an entire pharmacy's worth of toiletries on him. He specifically insists on the sunscreen, warning Mian that military training will absolutely wreck his skin if he's not careful. Mian just sighs and agrees, knowing there's no winning against Grandpa's nagging. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Grandpa goes to check who's crashing their packing session. It's little Q, looking adorable as ever and inviting them both on a massive shopping trip to the hypermarket. Soon, they're all piled into the car, where Grandpa starts regaling Q with stories about the freezing north. He describes snowflakes tasting like shaved ice, and Q is totally mesmerized by the snowy lore. Mian sits in the passenger seat, stealing glances at Yan, who's focused on the road. They pull up to a massive shopping center that looks like a playground paradise. Grandpa spots an indoor play area and his eyes light up just as much as Q's. He suggests he takes the little one to play while the youngsters handle the actual grocery shopping. Q is hyped, declaring Yan the best for letting her go off and have fun. Inside the store, Mian is immediately distracted by the snack aisle, which is loaded with stuff he's never seen before. Yan pushes the cart, acting like the perfect domestic partner while checking if Mian has everything for his dorm life. He even offers to drive Mian to school for his first day, which sounds like a dream date. However, Mian has to break the news that his dad already called dibs on the drop-off. Mentioning his dad brings a cloud over Mian's mood, because the man has suddenly started acting like a parent after years of neglect. Mian suspects Grandpa might have given his dad a legendary tongue lashing to make him step up. Seeing how Yan knows all of Q's favorite snacks makes Mian realize his own dad doesn't even remember his birthday. To hide the sudden waves of daddy issues, Mian tells Yan he's gonna go hunt for some chocolates. He ends up staring at the prices, internally screaming that $67 for a bag of snacks is literal highway robbery. He starts browsing the weirdest flavors he can find, like Lekki biscuits and plum oolong tea, just to distract himself. Yan sneaks up behind him, offering to buy whatever he wants, but Mian plays it cool and says he was just looking. They walk through the aisles together, the tension between them still humming under the surface. Mian pivots the conversation to toothpaste, trying to keep things grounded and practical. Meanwhile, at the playground, Q is being an absolute boss. Some kids are asking about her prosthetic leg, and instead of being shy, she tells them it's a special expensive limb because her dad is rich. The other kids think she's a literal superhero, and Q basks in the attention. She even lets them touch it, proving she's got more confidence in her pinky finger than most adults. Mian eventually finds them and can't help but smile at how pure the kids are. It's finally time to go, and Q waves a dramatic goodbye to her new fan club. Mian tells her it's time to find Grandpa, while Yan heads to the checkout to settle the bill. They find Grandpa in the middle of a full-blown brag session with a random lady in the mall. He's busy telling her that Mian is a future diplomat and basically the most handsome guy on the planet. Mian tries to drag him away, but Grandpa is already in matchmaker mode, trying to set Mian up with the lady's daughter. Right as Grandpa is laughing about setting Mian up on a blind date, Yan appears behind them like a dark omen. Yan's face goes completely blank, and the blind date comment lands like a grenade in the middle of the mall. Looks like Mian's school year is starting off with some serious relationship drama. Things are getting spicy as Mian prepares to head off to university, but not before one last showdown with his bookstore owner crush. After Grandpa's awkward matchmaking attempt at the mall, Mian is low-key terrified that Yan is totally salty about the blind date talk. He gets right in Yan's space, trying to read the room and explain that he's not actually looking for a girlfriend. Sensing the tension, Mian tries to play the helpful boyfriend and offers to carry the heavy shopping bags. However, the bags are basically lead bricks, and homeboy almost folds under the weight immediately. Yan doesn't even break a sweat as he takes them back, bluntly telling Mian it's time to just go home. Mian's heart melts when he peeks inside and realizes Yan actually bought all those specific snacks he was eyeing earlier. The whole family squad heads back, but the vibe is still definitely to be continued. Mian is practically glowing as he thanks his man for the treats, feeling like he's finally making progress. Back at the house, reality hits hard as Mian starts packing his suitcase for orientation day, while Grandpa gives him the standard "don't forget your toothbrush" speech. Internally, Mian is spiraling, wondering if Yan actually likes him back since he can't see a mood value hovering over the guy's head right now. He decides that tonight is his final chance to stop playing games and secure the title of actual partner. Day after dinner, he marches over to Yan's place and gives the door a firm knock. The romantic atmosphere is immediately nuked by the sound of little Q having an absolute meltdown in the background. Yan looks like he's aged 10 years in an hour as he lets Mian inside. A poor Q is a puddle of tears on the floor, begging Mian to stay home instead of going to school. Mian swoops in for a hug, trying to comfort the kid who's clearly his biggest fan. He promises to visit every single weekend and call her constantly just to stop the waterworks. Q makes him pinky swear to call Yan's phone since she's too young for her own, and Yan finally decides it's time for her to hit the hay. Mian watches them go upstairs, feeling the weight of the upcoming goodbye. Once the house is quiet, Yan comes back down and hands Mian an ice cream to cool off. Then he explains that Q finally conked out after crying herself into a nap. As Yan takes a drink of water, Mian is staring him down with some serious main character energy. Yan catches him red-handed and asks why he's staring so hard. Yan keeps his cool, but Mian is tired of the mystery and wants answers. Instead of a confession, Yan just gives him a dry, be careful speech about university life. Mian's mood basically hits rock bottom at the lack of emotion. Finally, he just sends it and asks the big question. Can he finally be Yan's actual partner? A heavy silence falls over the living room as the clock ticks. Yan finally breaks, admitting he shouldn't have agreed to any of this from the start. He claims he's not a fan of long-distance relationships, which sends Mian into a panic as he grabs Yan's arm. Yan takes the ice cream stick away and adds another blow, saying he isn't into dating people younger than him. Mian desperately swears he'll work on being more mature if that's what it takes. Yan just sighs and starts wiping Mian's face with a tissue, looking completely defeated by Mian's persistence. He asks if Mian really likes him that much, and Mian realizes he's never felt this way about anyone in his life. When Mian confirms his feelings, Yan gets a little petty and asks if he likes him even more than his ex, Fu Wei. Internally, Mian is fuming, thinking, why is he bringing up that loser right now? He shouts at the top of his lungs that he doesn't like Fu Wei at all. It's Yan. He admits he simply couldn't resist the temptation of being with him. Yan finally gives in, admitting that those obstacles don't even matter anymore. As the clock strikes midnight, the tension in the room is off the charts. Suddenly, the mood value above Yan's head flashes a bright, glowing pink with a solid 75. Mian realizes he's finally secured the bag and won the man's heart. Being bold, he grabs Yan's face and demands that he look at him. Yan is visibly shook by the sudden confidence. He finally leans in, accepting that he's stuck doing long distance after all. Yan officially caves, deciding he can handle dating someone younger as they finally seal the deal. Mian is finally taking a second to breathe, reflecting on how lucky he is to have spent the summer on Green Plum Island with his grandpa. Despite the spicy confession recently, the kid is still shy, turning into a total tomato when Yan gets too close. Internally, he's already missing his man, begging Yan to keep him on his mind as he prepares for the big move to university. Yan, looking like a top-tier male lead, gives him the green light with a simple promise to do just that. The suitcases are packed and the car is ready to roll as Mian prepares to leave the island behind. The grandpa gives him the classic study hard talk, completely unaware that Mian's heart is staying behind with the local bookstore owner. It's a bittersweet moment as the two finally let go of each other's hands. The engine roars to life, signaling the official end of his summer vacation. But as the car pulls away, Mian spots a familiar face near the gate and realizes Yan actually came out to see him off. Yan looks a bit caught in 4K, not expecting to be spotted watching the car disappear. Mian doesn't care about being low-key, leaning out the window to shout for Yan to wait for him. But while Grandpa waves goodbye to the island, Yan stands there stoically, whispering a vow that he definitely will wait. Fast forward to the university grounds, and Mian is currently living through every freshman's nightmare. Mandatory military training. Between the blazing sun and the endless drills, the poor guy is convinced he's going to come back 5 shades darker. Just when he thinks things can't get any more exhausting, he spots a familiar face in the crowd that makes his mood drop instantly. Turns out, Mian and his old rival Fu Wei had a massive showdown on the first day of orientation. Mian was ready to report him as a stalker, but Fu Wei had to pull out his actual admission letter to prove he's a legit student in the finance faculty. Mian prayed to the universe that their paths wouldn't cross again after this camo-clad torture session was over. Of course, the universe loves drama, and Fu Wei corners him the moment training ends. Mian is totally over the nonsense, demanding to know what he wants to say this time. Fu Wei cuts straight to the chase, asking if Mian is officially in a relationship with the bookstore owner. When Mian tells him it's none of his business, Fu Wei looks surprisingly defeated, acknowledging that his suspicions were right. Instead of starting a fight, he drops a bombshell. He's actually dating Anna now. Mian is genuinely relieved, giving him a quick congrats for finally moving on. He's done with the high school beef, hoping this is the last time they ever have to interact. They walk their separate ways, officially closing the book on their past rivalry. Back at the dorms, Mian meets his new roommate, Wen Yuran, who is already deep into a bag of chips. Yuran mentions he picked up a letter for Mian from the mailroom earlier. Mian's eyes light up when he sees the envelope, realizing it's a handwritten letter from Yan and little Q. The roommate is confused, wondering why anyone still uses snail mail in the digital age, but Mian proudly declares it's from his partner. He sits down at his desk, clutching the letter like it's a rare treasure. Yuran is absolutely blindsided, shocked that pretty boy like Mian managed to lock down a relationship before school even started. The roommate starts complaining about normie struggles, convinced that handsome guys have life on easy mode while everyone else stays single. When he asks how long it took Mian to bag his partner, Mian casually mentions it only took 2 months over the summer. The poor Yuran is currently short-circuiting, trying to convince himself that being single is actually a vibe, and he's totally not jealous. Meanwhile, Mian couldn't care less about the roommate's midlife crisis, eagerly opening the letter to see what Yan wrote. Back at the dorm, Mian is busy analyzing a handwritten letter like a top-secret document, noting that while the stationery is cute, the penmanship is definitely Yan Kongshan's. The first page is a classic check-in from little Q, who's curious about his new friends and complaining about being hard stuck on a boss level in her video game. However, Mian notices a second page hidden behind the fluff, realizing he's just found the real treasure. It's a personal update from Yan mentioning that life on Green Plum Island is quiet, even though the kittens are thriving and the local lamp posts are acting up. Yan admits he finds himself walking past Mian's empty window every single day, unable to stop himself from looking for a ghost. Internally, Mian's heart does a backflip as he reads Yan's confession about how bland life feels without him. He's officially short-circuiting from the long-distance flirting and suddenly can't wait for winter break to start. Desperate to send a proper response, Mian heads out of the dorm to level up his writing game. He stops by a stationery shop where the clerk talks him into buying a classic Hero 100 fountain pen, claiming it's the GOAT for everyday writing. Mian agrees, but then throws a curveball by asking for a specific ink recommendation. The clerk is visibly confused when the kid asks for pink ink. Mian just blushes, explaining he wants a shade that screams romance. The clerk immediately catches him in 4K, asking if he's planning to write a love letter. Mian shyly confirms it, leading the clerk to pull out a premium Sakura, pink ink that's worth every penny. To complete the vibe, the clerk offers up some rose-bordered paper, assuming Mian is writing to a girlfriend. Internally, Mian scoffs. He's definitely not my girlfriend, but he'll love the aesthetic anyway. Back at his desk that night, Mian begins the struggle of drafting the perfect reply, realizing that even the most expensive ink can't fix writer's block. After several failed attempts and a trash can full of paper, he finally settles on a version that feels right. By the time he's finished, it's late and he's hit with a sudden wave of missing his man. He decides to risk a late-night call, worrying Yan might already be asleep as the line rings. To his surprise, Yan picks up immediately and Mian can't help but shout his name into the receiver. He admits he misses him too, feeling a bit vulnerable in the quiet dorm. Yan's voice is a total mood booster as he calmly acknowledges the sentiment. When Mian asks what he's doing up so late, the scene shifts to the island. Yan is standing alone in the yard, bathed in the glow of the house lights. Yan claims he's just out there stargazing, but then drops a smooth line about Mian being a much better view. They start discussing winter break plans, and Mian mentions his mom wants him to stay for the holidays, but his heart is set on the island. He finally admits the truth. He just really wants to see Yan. There's a heavy, romantic pause as the two share a silent moment over the phone. Yan makes a power move, offering to drive up and pick Mian up the very first day break starts. He promises they can go stargazing together back home, which is basically all Mian needs to hear to be happy. Mian agrees, his long-distance depression officially cured for the night. The next day, Mian heads over to his mother's high-rise apartment for their scheduled dinner. His mom greets him warmly at the door, but Mian is hilariously wearing a shirt with Ashan printed on it, keeping his boyfriend close even when they're apart. She tells him to get comfortable while she finishes up in the kitchen. Suddenly, the door clicks open and a man walks in, announcing he's home. Mom introduces the newcomer as Han, her partner. Mian keeps it polite, meeting the man who has clearly stepped into the stepdad role. Han is super chill, telling Mian there's no need for formalities because they're all family now. He even heads into the kitchen to play the doting husband, helping Mom with the cooking. Watching them together, Mian can't help but smile, realizing his mom has finally found someone who treats her right. Han brings out the food, and Mian's mood meter ability shows a high score of 85 above the man's head, proving he's a genuinely good guy. Still, seeing them so lovey-dovey makes Mian feel like a total third wheel. 1 month later, the semester is finally wrapping up, and Mian is counting down the seconds. As soon as the bell rings for winter break, he's out of there, sprinting across campus with his luggage in tow. His roommate, Yuran, is struggling to keep up, teasing Mian about running like he just won the lottery. Mian ignores the shade because he spots a familiar luxury car parked by the curb. Yan Kongshan is leaning against the vehicle, looking like he just stepped off a fashion runway. But Yuran is absolutely blindsided by the sight of the handsome stranger. Mian casually waves goodbye to his roommate, leaving Yuran to short-circuit as he realizes Mayan's partner is actually a high-tier hunk. Winter break is finally here, and Mayan is back in his room daydreaming about his favorite bookstore owner. Shan shows up at the campus right on time, looking like a total snack and ready to take his boy home. Once they're settled in the car, Shan goes into full caregiver mode, checking to see if Mayan is thirsty after the long day. Mian notices that the side pocket is stocked with water and his favorite snacks, making him realize Shan thought of everything. Internally, Mian felt pampered. Older men really just know how to treat you right. Shan keeps his eyes on the road, but the atmosphere is heavy with all the things they haven't said yet. The vibe shifts instantly when Shan casually mentions he saw Mian's old rival, Fu Wei, earlier that day. Mian nearly does a spit take with his water, frantically explaining that Fu Wei is totally irrelevant and already has a girlfriend. Shan's expression darkens as the jealousy meter starts ticking up, and he asks if Mian actually talked to the guy. Mian tries to play it cool, explaining that he didn't want to talk, but Fu Wei basically cornered him on the street. Internally, Mian screamed, "Abort mission!" The jealousy levels are reaching a critical state. Seeing Shan's mood drop to a 78, Mian pivots to full-on flirting, telling Shan he was so excited for this pickup that he couldn't even sleep. He doubles down on the sweetness, admitting he missed Shan so much he was thinking about him during every single lecture. The charm offensive works perfectly, sending Shan's mood value soaring back up to a healthy 86. Mian leans into the moment, promising to spend all his free time thinking about Shan instead. Suddenly, they hit a red light, forcing the car to a halt in the middle of the city. Shan hits the brakes and turns to Mian with a serious look, telling him to stay far away from Fu Wei, because that guy is nothing but trouble. Mian, acting a little dense, asks if Shan actually thinks the guy has feelings for him. Shan calls the guy a coward for not being honest, but admits he's thankful for that cowardice before leaning in close. The space between them vanishes, and for a second, it looks like Mian is finally going to get that cinematic kiss. Shan places a firm hand on Mian's waist, and the tension in the car is absolutely electric. Of course, the universe decided to be a hater, and the cars behind them start honking like they're in a race. The light turns green, and the moment is officially killed by city traffic, much to Mian's disappointment. A few minutes later, Shan pulls over again, leaving Mian wondering why they're stopping in a random spot. The sound of a seatbelt clicking fills the quiet car as Shan decides he's done waiting for the perfect moment. Shan admits that he was a bit of a coward too, before grabbing Mian's face and leaning in to finish what the traffic light interrupted. After the heavy makeout session, Mian realizes they should probably stop before someone catches them in 4K. Mian gets a bit shy, admitting that being brave in their relationship doesn't mean he isn't still nervous about the future. Shan changes the subject to Mian's upcoming birthday on October 3rd, making sure he hasn't missed the big day. When asked what he wants for his gift, Mian says the only thing he needs is for Shan to be with him the moment the clock strikes midnight. Shan seems surprised that such a small request is all it takes to make Mian happy. Internally, Mian was blushing. Is it too much to ask for your undivided attention? Shan gives him a gentle head pat, officially ending the romantic detour so they can finally head home. They pull up to the house where Grandpa and little Q are already outside waiting to welcome the traveler. Mian jumps out of the car to hug Grandpa and check in on Q's video game progress, feeling the warmth of home. Grandpa tries to play the tough guy by offering to carry the heavy luggage himself, treating Mian like he's still 10 years old. Mian waves a sweet goodbye to Shan, promising to head over to his place later that night. Once inside, Mian kicks back on the couch with Q, who is dying to know if university life is as cool as it looks. The little girl asks if college is more fun than being back on Green Plum Island. Mian explains that it's just a different vibe, while Grandpa brings out a plate of fruit sent over by their friend Sunrui. They start snacking, and Mian wonders how Sunrui is doing with her own romantic interests. He sends a quick thank you text to his bestie, fishing for some tea on her relationship status. Sunrui replies instantly with a boss mode sticker, bragging that she and her man already hit a home run. She immediately starts roasting Mian for being pure, and tells him he needs to stop stalling and just get down to business with Shan. Mian texts back in a panic, claiming there is absolutely no way he could ever overpower a man like Shan. Sunrui gives him the ultimate pro tip. He doesn't have to overpower him, he just has to make Shan want him enough to take the lead. Internally, Mian was short-circuiting. How am I supposed to pull off a master plan like that? He decides it's time to actually come up with a strategy to move their relationship to the next level. But his confidence evaporates when Sunrui sends one final text. Remember to play safe and don't forget protect. Mian decides to stop being a coward and finally take Sunrui's advice, because there's no better time for a level up than his own birthday. He sneaks into a quick mart, doing his best impression of a secret agent while hunting for the essentials usually kept near the register. He finally spots the goods and prepares for the most awkward interaction of his life. Even though he's legally an adult, he feels like he's being caught in 4K, just for trying to buy protection at the counter. After a lightning-fast checkout, he refuses a bag and flees the scene, internally screaming about the absolute audacity of his own birthday gift plan. Back at home, the clock is ticking and it's already past 11 p.m., leaving Mian with less than an hour to reach Yan's place. Luckily, Grandpa is already yawning and ready to hit the hay. Mian practically teleports to Grandpa's side to escort him to his room, hoping the old man doesn't notice his suspicious energy. He tucks the old man in at record speed, probably setting a world record for the most helpful grandson ever. With a quick goodnight, he shuts the door and prepares for phase 2 of his mission. He makes a clean break for the exit, finally free to head over to his man's house. Time is his biggest enemy right now, so he starts running through the night like he's training for the Olympics. He reaches the house and rings the bell with only minutes to spare before the big day. When Yan opens the door, Mian is huffing and puffing like he just ran a marathon, which he basically did. Yan is low-key confused why his boyfriend is acting like he's in an action movie, but Mian just wants to make sure he's there before the clock strikes 12. Yan heads to the fridge to grab a Coke for the breathless birthday boy. He tells Mian to chill on the couch and wait while he plays the perfect host. While waiting, Mian spots a sleek black box on the table and realizes Yan actually got him some that looks ridiculously expensive. Yan hands over the gift, revealing a sentimental watch that belonged to his late sister, proving that Mian is officially part of the family now. Mian's brain starts short-circuiting because the gift is way too valuable to just accept without a fight. But Yan insists it's a meet-the-family gesture, leaving Mian feeling a bit guilty about his spicy plans while he chugs his soda to calm his nerves. He decides to stick to the script anyway, leaning in close and telling Yan there's one more thing he wants for his birthday. Just then, Yan's phone alarm goes off to officially signal the start of Mian's birthday, and he gives him a soft, happy birthday, kid. Yan asks him to finish what he was saying, completely unaware of the bombshell about to drop. Mian reaches into his pocket and pulls out the surprise, leaving Yan absolutely blindsided by the bold move. He drops the protection right into Yan's hand, making his intentions crystal clear. Blushing like a total tomato, Mian finally lets it all out, asking Yan to teach him everything because he's ready to take their relationship to the next level.